All the Reasons I Hate My 28-Year-Old Boss: How to Fight Back Against Ageism and Survive a Youth-Focused Workplace. By me, Phillip Andrew Barbb. A word from the author. Should you read this book? All the Reasons I Hate My 28-Year-Old Boss is an entertaining, comedic, and motivational business and self-help book for business professionals, artists, creatives, mothers, fathers, cats, dogs, etc. Anyone who has ever worked with a coworker or for a boss with a problematic personality. So yes, this book is for you. The overarching theme of this book is ageism. So it is essential to take a look at where it comes from and how we have been socialized to accept it and why it kicks us in the ass as we get older. So here's my agreement with you. After finishing this book, you will feel empowered, enlightened, have a new peace within yourself, thriving in your current position, and will be on your way to building a stronger relationship with your younger boss. Or you'll be ready to fearlessly hand over that letter of resignation to that little pissant drowning in his dad's oversized suit. Maybe you will be inspired to go out there and become your own boss. To hell with the 28-year-old prodigies. Become your own prodigy. Or perhaps you will learn a new way to approach dealing with that little diaper filler. Either way, get ready to examine all the reasons I hate my 28-year-old boss, and let's overcome the injustice of ageism together so we can get on with living our best lives. Who's with me? Introduction. Guess what? Your boss is an asshole. Just kidding. They're probably not. At least I hope not. They could actually be quite great if you get to know them. And a positive working relationship with them may very well be the next monumental turning point in your career and your life. Something about this book jumped out at you. Maybe you've been struggling to get motivated at work or noticed that the typical day-to-day of the workplace has turned you into a walking dead zombie. Perhaps you are switching career paths and now find yourself starting over. You may be very successful in your career, but due to the economy, now find yourself working in a new environment where all your coworkers seem to care more about their social media feed than the company's bottom line. Hell, your boss probably cares more about eating avocado toast than almost anything else. Here's the good news. I am here to help and offer some new perspective and guidance. By the way, if you don't know what avocado toast is, we better get to work. I want to thank you for picking up this book. I hope you will find it as much fun reading it, or listening to it, as I did writing it. Ageism in the workplace, otherwise known as age bias or age discrimination, is becoming increasingly more prevalent in today's business world. While many employers would like to think their companies don't engage in this type of discrimination, statistical data and the growing number of age-related discrimination claims prove otherwise. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, records over 21,000 age discrimination claims each year. Additionally, a research poll discovered that 64% of older workers say they have seen or personally experienced ageism in the workplace. The resulting consequences to employers, workers, and job seekers are damaging and far-reaching. It is therefore imperative that a change in mindset and a proactive, targeted approach is utilized when it comes to effectively addressing and tackling the current issues surrounding ageism in the workplace. Is the problem real, or is ageism just another trendy buzzword? We've all likely encountered stories from within our business networks when scanning the professional social media websites or while talking with family members and friends who talk about the topic of age discrimination in the workplace. All too common examples include job seekers age 40 and over being told they are overqualified, will cost too much to employ, and that they have a cultural mismatch for the organization. Or worse yet, they find themselves being blatantly ignored when applying for jobs for which they are fully qualified. When it comes to employed older workers, examples include being passed over for promotions in favor of younger, less experienced workers, being replaced by less costly millennials, finding their jobs suddenly and abruptly eliminated, or being unceremoniously forced into early retirement. Unfortunately, the ugly issue of ageism is occurring more frequently than employers would like to admit. When reviewing the median age of some of America's top companies, it is natural that it would cause some workers' blood pressures to begin to rise. Median ages of employees by company: AOL, 27, Facebook, 28, LinkedIn, 29, Salesforce, 29, Google, 30, Apple and Amazon, 31, eBay, 32, Adobe, 33, Microsoft 33, Dell 35, IBM 38, Oracle 39. The reality of ageism and its consequences make this problem far more significant than just another trendy buzzword. Sounds pretty scary, huh? Well, just wait. There's more. Today's multi-generational workforce and factors for consideration. It is estimated that millennials will account for approximately 35% of the global workforce by 2020, and they are spread across all levels of companies, including managerial roles. The growing percentage of millennials in the workforce is not the only factor that is making matters interesting. In today's unique time in history, we have a workforce demographic that is comprised of baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, aka the millennials, and Gen Z. Employers can easily find themselves faced with the interesting challenge of having to effectively manage not only their own workforce, but also job seekers that span across these four different demographic groups. The days of workers routinely retiring by age 55 seem to be long gone, with the current age for full retirement now being 66 to 67, and it's climbing. For varying financial reasons, including caring for elderly parents or rebuilding retirement accounts that took a hit during the recession, some individuals expect to work beyond their late 60s. This means that employers will need to plan for how they can best accommodate a workforce with employees in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and possibly beyond. Employers will also want to consider that 23% of the workforce is comprised of those workers that are 55 years of age and older. This is far too large of a demographic to dismiss as no longer relevant in the workplace, particularly as this group is healthier, living longer, and more educated than previous generations. There you have it. The stage has been set. This book started at about 250 pages, and then I realized I don't want to read all this shit, and I'm the one who wrote it. Luckily, after I spent a week sitting in the corner complaining and crying in a very fantastic little pity party of one, I received some great advice. You don't need a lot of content, you just need great content. So I scaled it down, chose only the best lessons and examples, and now you get to sit back and listen to me dive through only the best stuff. This book is designed to be a simple read, easy to digest, and something you can finish quicker than a bad Netflix binge session. Also, with a title like All the Reasons I Hate My 28-Year-Old Boss, the last thing you want to be doing is listening to this when your boss walks by. Now, while the advice and examples in this book are helpful for people of all ages, yes, even you, Millennial Dan, it will probably hit home the most for people between 35 to 62 years of age. Sorry, Dan. The idea that age somehow is a magic pill of success, wisdom, honor, and respect begins when we're pretty young. At 5 or 6 years old, we enter kindergarten and begin to believe that the older kids knew more information and were further along than we were. Hell, every 5th grader knows that the 7th grader is an expert and has life totally figured out, right? That's just common sense. As we continued to move through adolescence and had more needs and wants, we were told that there are some things we can't have until we get older. You want to drive a car, but you aren't allowed because you have to wait until you're older. You can't see that movie yet because you aren't old enough. You can't stay out late because you're too young. At many times, age felt like some mythical prison sentence that we could not escape. When will I be an acceptable age to do the things that I want to do? Time and time again, it seemed as if we were being presented with things we wanted to do, only to have them kept at arm's length by someone telling us, you aren't old enough. But then things started to happen. At 16, you got your license to drive. At 18, hello, strip clubs. Don't judge me. At 21, you are finally allowed to drink alcohol. #adulting. Now you're older and starting out on your career path. Before you know it, you're steadily moving up the ranks. You can just see that future corner office. Hell, you might even make partner. You can feel the 6-figure salary coming. It's finally your time to get the keys to the palace. You waited, obeyed, and followed the rules. You climbed the corporate ladder and made sure not to drink too much at the company holiday party. You did everything right. It's now time for all the other promises to come true. You are smarter, wiser, and more distinguished. Your salt and pepper hair is really starting to work in your favor. You're not old, you're seasoned. Then it all comes to a screeching halt when some young 28-year-old punk decides that all that doesn't apply to him and he somehow just became your boss. What the hell just happened? Talk about feeling like somebody cut in front of you in line. Maybe you switched over to a new fancy startup where the CEO founder could give a rat's ass about your 20-year career. All they know is they're running the show. Maybe you got stung by that nasty little thing called nepotism with your boss's frat boy son who just graduated from university. So naturally, he's ready to run the division. It's not fair, you say. I followed the rules. I did what I was supposed to do. I played the game. How come this little shit gets a pass? Can you feel the anger brewing? Can you feel the molten lava of disrespect bubbling through your body? I know I can. I can also feel a lot of other things too. I mean, not to kick you while you're down, but to hell with it. It's the whole point of this book. It isn't just anger and disrespect that is inside of us. It's also entitlement, fear of success, fear of failure, lack of empathy. Oh yeah, and let's not forget the big one, ego. What the hell, Phillip? I thought you were cool. I thought this was going to be a fun book that makes fun of millennials. Sorry, my friend. I'm in the business of us all getting better, having a new outlook on the phenomenal opportunities we have every day. And that means we have to face the truth. While I do not deny the very real existence of ageism or want to diminish its injustice, the truth is it is a larger issue that will take time and effort for a lot of people to help reverse. For your sake, I want to focus on the aspects of ageism you have control over. Here's the deal. No one has the power to make you feel worthless, useless, or washed up unless you allow them to. I don't want that for you, and I certainly don't accept that for myself. I want you to thrive in your everyday life. I want you to experience a renewed purpose. The beautiful thing about feeling sad, angry, lost, and out of control is that with some discipline, understanding, humility, and effort, you can regain control of yourself despite being faced with ageism in your workplace. We do not need our situation or circumstance to magically change. We have everything we need to be the happy, fulfilled, energetic, and amazing people we have always wanted to be. All aboard the self-awareness train. Choo-choo! Reason number 1. Those damn millennials are so entitled. Millennial this, millennial that. I'm sick of everyone catering to these damn kids. Participation trophy my ass. Let's get right into it. I don't like to avoid that entitled elephant in the room, those damn millennials. It's funny how often we hear the term millennials, and it typically comes with a negative connotation. We look at millennials as the new problem. However, the term has actually been around since the late 80s. Authors William Strauss and Neil Howe are generally given credit for first using the term to describe children born after 1982, although the specific birth year ranges are largely debated. Many people are beginning to see the problems with having such a wide range associated with this generation, to the point that a new term has been coined for millennials born before 1990 as old-lennials. As much as I hate to make such gross generalizations, for the purpose of this book, it is necessary to get into the stereotypes of the exotic species known as the millennial. The millennial, wearing its Beats headphones and Kanye West shoes, loves to complain. They think he is too old, she is too young. They only eat non-gluten, non-dairy, non-GMO, non-calorie foods, pretty much anything that begins with non. They want a promotion yesterday, need to be constantly told they are doing a good job. Wait, did I say a good job? I meant a great, excellent, perfect, out of this world spectacular, never to be duplicated by another human again job. She is a princess who always gets her way because, flat out, she deserves it. He is Peter Pan. He never wants to grow up. What's the point? They have no respect. They are too soft. And what the hell is the deal with these oversized shirts and skinny jeans? Okay, are we done yet? Let's take a deeper look at the everyone gets a trophy generation. In fairness, the millennials didn't create the world in which they grew up. They didn't have a meeting after t-ball practice to decide that they all deserved that trophy. No, that little gem of an idea came from their parents. They didn't ask for their helicopter parents to hover around continually to pick them up and brush them off every time they hit hard times or failed. The parents of millennials were the ones who thought it made more sense to blame teachers and coaches rather than reinforcing the importance of hard work, resilience, and discipline. Bravo, millennial mom and dads! Then you have another side of parenting for the millennials. Many children grew up in households with parents who viewed their children's accomplishments as proof of their success as a parent. The constant demands of excellence and perfection created a lot of anxiety, frustration, and insecurity for a generation that is now seeing considerable numbers in eating disorders, substance abuse issues, and sexual addictions. In her book, The Price of Privilege, Dr. Madeline Levine, PhD, wrote, quote, "While being involved in after-school activities was good for most children, parental criticism about their performance in these activities was damaging. Holding high standards for our children is not the problem, but humiliating and disparaging them when they fail to meet expectations is." End quote. Yes, I'm asking for your compassion and grace. While there is definitely a difference in the way that generations were taught to deal with failure, mistakes, hardship, and how to develop resilience, we must cut the millennials a bit of a break. It isn't useful to focus on the problem, so let's focus on the solution. We will talk about some of the solutions a little later, but first and foremost, be the example, be the light. Showing others the right way to behave isn't first through your words, rather through your actions. In other words, don't talk about it, be about it. Now, as a quick note to my millennial friends who are listening to this and think I'm throwing you under the bus, let's take a look at the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates for a moment. He isn't a baby boomer, so you don't have to hate him. Socrates said, "Whenever someone slanders you, you must look at it as if it is just. If it is just, make the change. If not, ignore it." Thanks, Socrates. Hashtag Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. Instead of getting all butthurt every time you get labeled a millennial, stop and check yourself. Really, look at what you're doing, your behavior, your actions, your mentality. Are you being entitled? Are you being selfish? Are you being lazy? It's not your fault how you were raised, but as an adult, you do have the responsibility, or as I prefer to say, the ability to respond to change your actions. Hashtag Gandhi, hashtag be the change. Reason number 2. They're too young to be my boss. Fuck this dude or dudette. Now I know that might seem a little harsh. Like, whoa, that came a bit out of left field, Phillip. But I have a confession to make. I actually said that before. One of the primary motivations for writing this book is because I realized I was 100% completely and insanely obsessed with age. I always wanted to know where I stacked up in comparison with other people in my age bracket. Even though I know that thousands of factors contribute to who we become in life, my competitive nature, actually let's call it what it is, my ego, was out of control and wanted to be validated. I needed to hear, "I'm the best person in the world, I'm special." Did I mention that I was voted class perfectionist in my senior year of high school? Yeah, I'm that guy. I would Google everything from how much money should I have saved by age 42? What percentage of people are making 6 figures by age 30? How many sexual partners do people have by age 35? Look, I'm a little age obsessed. I'm not proud of it. Give me a break. I'm only human. The truth is, I began writing this book and then something absolutely magical happened. I was feeling powerful and smart and like I was going to save the world with this book. And then I started a new television job in entertainment. I began as a field producer on a music documentary series for Netflix called West Side, and 2 weeks into my job, it happened. We had begun principal photography on the project, and were in the middle of shooting the first episode. Everyone was getting along great, and the team was very strong. I was in a conversation with my boss about our backgrounds, where we were from, TV shows we had produced, and then I asked him the million-dollar question, "How old are you?" And guess how old my new boss was? Yep, you got it. The first thing that popped in my head immediately after he said, "I'm 28, was, fuck this dude. I knew better than that. I had no idea what experience he had. I didn't know what his background was. I didn't know anything about him at all. I needed to check my attitude, my anger, and my inflated ego immediately. I was allowing my own age-obsessed thoughts to get the best of me, and it was stealing my peace of mind. I felt angry that he was the boss and I wasn't. I felt disrespected that he got hired instead of me. I felt entitled and thought, who the hell is he to tell me what to do and how to do this job? I was pissed. And the best part, this was all after I had already started writing the book. I had to get real with myself and ask, how is my boss being 28 any different than if he had said he was 48? Why would I immediately give him more respect if he was older? Sure, I might have said, "Damn man, you look great for 48. But it wouldn't have proven anything about his actual ability to be successful at his job. I realized I needed to treat him like a man who was simply hired to do a job. I can't second guess his decisions because of my own stupid prejudice. I can't give him an attitude because I have entitlement sweeping over my heart. I need to do the job that I was hired to do and let him do the job he was hired to do. The competitor in me says, I will be way better at my job than he is at his. I will prove that his title should have been mine. Some people work better being hyper-competitive, but that is not the best attitude for everybody. If you told me you had planned on using that as motivation, I might advise against it. For me, I know it's not how I best serve other people. But hell, I said I'm a perfectionist, not perfect. I eventually told my 28-year-old boss about this book, so he knew it wasn't completely about him. Thanks, Ian. Because it isn't about him. It is all about me and how I respond. The issues in this book aren't about your boss or coworkers or mothers or fathers or husbands or wives. They are about you, your attitude, your approach, your entitlement, your fears, your perspectives. We're going to do some serious soul searching and rewiring before you get to the back cover. Keep reading if you're ready for some serious transformation. Reason number 3. They just started. I've been doing this for years. I've forgotten more information than my boss has ever learned. I get it. You're a stud. Look at you and all your success. Everyone has always looked up to you. They all followed your lead. They may have even asked you for fashion advice. You're so amazing. Nice pants. You may have awards and keynote speeches and medals with your name on it. You very well might have accomplished more than your current boss. The little kid, the pissant, the little diaper filler. Who are they to tell you what to do? Can you hear the ego alarm going off? Can you smell the arrogance? One simple explanation is you are allowing your successes of the past to justify being arrogant in the present. However, this is deeper than superficial arrogance. What you're really experiencing is the fear of failure we all encounter in battle in some way or another. Despite all your success, sometimes the future can still feel extraordinarily uncertain. And to step back up to the plate means putting everything on the line again, and that can be scary. Sports teams know they cannot rely on last year's success. I bet every Super Bowl championship team would like to be able to relax and enjoy the victory for a little while longer before having to get back out onto the field for practice. However, they know they have 31 other teams all determined to steal their championship trophy, and they need to be prepared. It is rumored that Shaquille O'Neal would take last year's trophy off his mantle when the new season began. He didn't want to hang his hat on any old awards. He was always looking forward. In order for you to be the best teammate possible, you have to be ready to suit back up, take risks, and be willing to face the possibility of failure. Executive coach Steve Chandler says, focusing excessively on the past is just a way out of the present. It's a bailout. It's a flight. It's an escape. You are living in the past. You are focusing on your reputation, and you know what? You're afraid. That's it. That's right. I said it. You are afraid that you will fail. You are trying to hang on your old successes, but the truth is, when we do not live in the now, you are cheating yourself of life. By mentally hanging on your old past accomplishments, you are letting your ego prevent you from trying new things. Don't be held prisoner today with the fear of duplicating yesterday's success. You should be so lucky to fail at something today. With failure comes the opportunity to grow. And the truth is, we are pushing our limits and have the chance to develop our character into a purpose-driven one that is resilient to the struggles of today. Life isn't about chasing success and avoiding failure. Trying to avoid failure only prevents us from taking the necessary risks towards progress. You should want to chase failure. Your goal should be to find a little bit of failure every single day. If you uncover enough failure in your life, then you will eventually discover lasting and fulfilling success. You already know this to be true. Your career is filled with examples of you overcoming setbacks and pushing through towards accomplishment. However, somewhere along your journey, you forgot how comfortable you should be with failure. If this kid sees me fail, he might not look up to me. He might think I'm just an old man who's not worthy. You are worried about your reputation instead of taking ownership of your character. Some bullet points. A person of character knows they will fail many times if they are genuinely pursuing excellence. A person of character isn't concerned with the opinions of others because they know their own virtues and value. A person of character is not intimidated by another person. They invite critics, as there has never been a great man or woman in history that hasn't endured a little criticism. Millennials, feel free to replace critic with the word hater if it makes you feel better. Maybe you've had a lot of success in the past and now you feel stuck. Or perhaps you are still waiting for your breakthrough. What can you do? We've got two things. First, clarify your goals. And second, do an integrity scan. Let's start with clarifying your goals. It has been said that clarity is power. I wish I could say I came up with this, but I didn't. A much smarter person than I said it first, but hey, I'm rolling with it now. It's not enough to say I want to be successful, or I want to help people, or I want to be a good mother or father. In order to work towards a goal and a way of life, you must first define being specific and exact about what you want out of life. A big reason why you may not have it defined is that on a subconscious level, you are fearful that if you truly define what you want, then you risk knowing you didn't achieve it. It's the fear-based mindset that tells you you can't drop the game-winning touchdown if you never step on the field. While this playing it safe thinking can be quite common for many of us, we all have more to offer the world than just sitting on the sidelines. Have the courage to give some legitimate thought to what you want out of your career and life, and be as specific as you can be. Get clarity on your goals. What advancement are you looking to achieve? When you define your hopes, dreams, and goals with exactness and clarity, it gives you the power to create the game plan to achieve it. It provides you with the end game to move toward. It tells you what the light at the end of the tunnel will look like. Clarity helps us fight through the overwhelming feeling of uncertainty and gives us a real understanding of what the next steps need to be. Of course, things may change along the way, so you will have to reevaluate and redesign your approach as you continue down the path. You don't ever need to know each and every step right this second, but you have to set your aim with real, quantifiable, and easy to comprehend goals. And remember, you can only reach the light at the end of the tunnel if you are moving through the tunnel. Do the work. Get off the bench and get into the game. Learn to love the process. Define your goals with extreme precision and clarity, because clarity is power. Have you noticed how we began this chapter talking about your boss, and now we are solely focused on you? Yes, get used to it. It's going to be happening a lot. The fact is, every person in the world is outside of your realm of control. You can influence people. Just as I hope this book will impact you and it makes you better and happier, but the choice is still yours. You can't change your boss or husband, wife, the barista at Starbucks, but you can take responsibility for yourself to become happier, more joyful, and to have a greater peace of mind. The second thing that you can do is an integrity scan. You are either A, inside of integrity, or B, outside of integrity. The dictionary defines integrity as the state of being whole or undivided. When I talk about being inside of integrity, I am talking about being whole and undivided. When I talk about being outside of integrity, it means your character is experiencing dissonance and is in a state of incompleteness. I want you to listen to this list of values, one at a time, considering what each of them means to you. Authenticity, creativity, understanding, respectfulness, peacefulness, spirituality, honesty, caring, responsibility, faithfulness, lovingness, happiness, friendliness, compassion, encouragement, gratitude, boldness, hardworking, loyal, service, adventure, truthfulness, dedication, discipline, wisdom, kindness, optimism, ruthlessness, trust, knowledge, acceptance, and inspiration. Now choose the top 5 values that are most important to you, and the ones that you would hope your friends, family, and colleagues would describe you as. If you have a value that isn't on the list, feel free to add it yourself. So write down your 5 values. I don't pick them for you. Your boss doesn't pick them. Your mother doesn't pick them. The choice is yours. These values must be important to you, deep to your core. Now here comes the challenge. It isn't enough to simply pick 5 values and then call it a day. After all, Enron chose the values of respect, integrity, communication, and excellence, and I'm sure you remember how those things turned out with that scandal. Values only work if you embody them and practice them. Look at the first value you selected. Over the past week, how many times did you behave in the opposite way of that value? For instance, if you selected honesty, but you lied to your boss about why the report wasn't finished, that is in direct conflict with your own integrity. Hashtag outside of integrity. If you selected friendliness, yet you were rude to the barista at Starbucks this morning because they misspelled your name on your venti cup, you are operating outside of integrity. If you selected discipline, yet you didn't go to the gym this week when you said you were going to, you're outside of integrity. As mentioned before, when you are outside of integrity, you are incomplete. You are going against what and how you want to be. It's easy to see how that can bring anger, shame, frustration, angst, and disappointment. Now look, I don't want you to beat yourself up. That's not the point of this. I do want you to be happy, fulfilled, and excited about the person that you're becoming. And the best way to do that is by stepping into your integrity. With integrity comes responsibility, or as I mentioned before, your ability to respond. If being honest is truly important to you, then doing the opposite will leave you feeling incomplete. You can respond by being honest all of the time. Act as if everything you do and say is on camera and broadcast to the world. It sounds scary at first, but trust me, it's freeing. Congratulations! You have achieved clarity with 5 core values that are important to you, and you now have the ability to respond by exhibiting those values in all areas of life so you can be happier and more fulfilled. I recommend looking at the 5 values you selected and see how often in the last week you were outside or inside of integrity with those. Some call this an inventory. We will call it a scan. This is your integrity scan. Now let's get this out of the way. There is no perfect. Everyone has their bad days. Everyone has their moments where they slip. We are not saints. That's okay. But you can use this integrity scan to keep tabs on how you are doing. It gives you a better understanding if you are behaving in a way that is in alignment with your integrity. Here's a little additional tip. Take your integrity scan to the next level and incorporate your 5 key values into a personal mission statement for your life. Reason number 4. She's so damn busy, yet finishes nothing. My boss has no time management skills. She's always late, always distracted. She claims to be so busy, but she never gets anything accomplished. Newsflash, looking busy and getting shit done is not the same thing. Many people in today's society are obsessed with multitasking and being busy. I'm sure you can think of a person or two who seem to confuse talking about getting shit done with actually doing it. Here's a conversation. How you been, Mike? Man, busy. Super busy. Good, but busy. Like crazy busy. But with what? I mean, just crushing it, man. Hustle and grind, dude. Hashtag on the grind. Now, this was a fictional conversation. I just made it up, but I've heard similar chats plenty of times, and frankly, I've been on both ends of it myself. Hashtag don't judge my rise and grind, Monday motivation, Wednesday wisdom, get shit done, hustle, hey. Another thing about a lot of millennials is they have been busy since they were 4. Think about it. Many kids grew up being ushered around from school to soccer practice to choir practice while doing homework in the backseat of the car while heading to coding class. Oh yeah, and don't forget about Spanish and Chinese language lessons on Tuesday and yoga for tots on Sunday mornings. To make matters worse, parents will compare their children's jam-packed schedules with the jam-packed schedules of other kids. Quite often they judge their own parenting skills harshly and are constantly concerned about whether or not they are setting their kids up for a future success. The trap is that parents become too focused on extracurricular activities and miss out on the important quality time with their child. There's something to be said for life back in the day when being busy meant riding bikes together as a family. When we spread ourselves too thin, we are setting ourselves up for disaster. In their defense, many millennials have never experienced any other way. This creates a trap of striving to accomplish 10 tasks in a half-assed way rather than getting 3 things completed to their entirety and well done. We all claim to be so busy. However, we need to be intentional about what is making us so busy. Being busy doesn't automatically mean that you are being effective. Here's another conversation. How are you? Oh man, so busy. Really, what have you been busy with? I mean, this, that, life, just busy. Sure, we have a lot going on in our world today, and like it or not, a lot of what's going on is merely a distraction. Lots and lots of distractions. How effective you are will be determined by how well you can sift through the meaningless and mundane busyness that is plaguing our society, and by putting in hard work that is disciplined and intentional towards well-defined goals. Executive coach Stephen Chandler says, quote, "Busyness is laziness. It is lazy to be busy. It's lazy for me to occupy myself with all these small tasks when I know deep down that none of them will produce wealth. This busy work is an enemy to my financial success." End quote. Remember, even the ants are busy. You have to ask yourself, what is keeping me so damn busy? Are you actually working towards real goals, or do you spend much of your time being distracted? Are you going through the motions of life and calling it busy in an attempt to make yourself feel better? Are you busy so you can hopefully avoid someone asking a favor of you? Are you saying you're busy because it makes you feel productive and worthy of respect? Look, take ownership of your actions. Be deliberate with your time, invest in yourself and your personal growth. Take a long, hard look at how you spend your time, the things you are busy with, and accurately evaluate what things can be shifted, changed, or better yet, eliminated in order to make time for the things that will bring you more excitement and fulfillment in life. A person sitting in a rocking chair may be busy rocking that chair, but are they going anywhere? Make sure you are putting the right amount of busy into the right activities, or else you will have incomplete projects all over the frickin' place. In sales, it is commonly said that 80% of your revenue comes from your top 20% of clients. It's not about having 1,000 clients you spend a couple of emails and calls on, but it is absolutely essential to have those 25 that you dedicate a significant amount of time to. If you're going to dig a well, you drill one 100-foot hole, not 100 1-foot holes. This concept might take your boss some time to understand. Sometimes people get distracted in the day-to-day and can't see the forest through the trees. Don't get caught up satisfying your boss's busy work if you know it isn't going to produce results. Have the courage to describe this concept to your team, educate them, and stress the importance of seeing tasks through efficiently and to completion. It is imperative to set boundaries in the workplace. Tim Ferriss offers a ton of examples in this in his book, The 4-Hour Workweek. I'm sure you read it. We all did. Remember the jam-packed schedule we discussed of the millennials? It should provide some understanding as to why your young boss thinks they need to be busy all the time, even if that busyness is merely rocking in a chair. The busy work can feel right. It looks like motion, but we know we aren't really going anywhere. It is your job to have the strength to use your energy for the things that are going to produce real results, not just satisfy a culture that's based on helping helicopter parents have more bragging rights at PTA meetings. Reason number 5. He has so much to learn. This little bastard doesn't know shit about life. Remember back to high school and how we thought the younger kids had no clue and that they were in way over their heads? We knew we were further along in math, science, English, skipping class, parallel parking. We even were better kissers. Those silly little freshmen had so much to learn. This way of thinking is a common trap for students, and sadly, many of us have never grown out of it. We carried that mentality into our adult lives, and we now assume that anyone younger than us has no idea what they are doing. We remember ourselves at that age and think, well, I was an idiot. Why would they be any different? While it's easy for people to operate under the assumption that everyone comes from the same path, it's an absolute lie. We make assumptions about everything from politics to economic status to the choice of what cars people drive. We judge, we stereotype, we're human. We often make the mental error of thinking that everyone comes from the same or similar background as our own. We project our life experiences onto them, assuming they had the same upbringing. We all are unique people, and in the same way that your boss doesn't know all the ins and outs of your life, you surely don't know all the ins and outs of theirs. For example, I will share a little story about myself. I am super bro-y. If you can picture a guy wearing a lime green tank top with a backwards hat, aviator sunglasses, driving around in a Jeep Wrangler with a cheesy custom license plate, well, that's me. Don't believe me? Check out my license plate. Easy, bro. You can't make that shit up. I'm a cartoon character. If Johnny Bravo met Southern California, that would be me. It would be easy to put me in a box and imagine me hitting on girls at the beach while ripping shots of tequila and crushing Coors Light cans on my head. But you'd have me all wrong. The truth is, I've been sober from alcohol since January of 2008. I began drinking alcohol at 11 years old, and from the very start, I was using alcohol to cope with my anxieties and insecurities of adolescence. While I did an excellent job of keeping any signs of the problem under the radar, the drinking continued through middle and high school. When I was 14, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and after a year-long battle, she passed away a week before my 16th birthday. I was sad and broken, angry and destroyed. Despite going through this experience, I stayed true to my reputation of being an overachiever. It was an obsession. I continued to make the honor roll, be a captain in varsity sports, and participate in student government. I didn't want anyone to know how much pain I was in, and that is when the drinking started to take over. After a couple of years, I had not so proudly accomplished the following: a drinking and driving car crash at the age of 18, 2 minor in possession of alcohol arrests at 19 and 20, too many fights to count. I won a couple, but I lost them all. An emergency room visit where I received 7 staples in the back of my head, and I wrapped it all up with a DUI arrest only 3 blocks from my childhood home. I was crushing life, all by the mature age of 22. Oftentimes, when people learn of my past hurts and hang-ups about drinking, and they hear about the time abstaining from alcohol, they are very supportive and speak with praise. They're downright proud of me. While I appreciate the support, I always remind them that the length of time I've been sober isn't the critical part. I am proud of the man I have become in that decade. I am proud of the work I put in to become a better man and to serve other people. The shame, the guilt, the embarrassment, the tears, the honesty, the vulnerability, the transparency, the healing, the self-awareness I developed is what I am most proud of and what I value the most. The hard truth is, I've met many people who've gone over 25 years without having a drink, and they are still sad, angry, miserable, and flat-out assholes. The length of time away from a bottle is not always correlated to a person's level of wisdom, fulfillment, and serenity. I even had a significant amount of time during my journey where I was miserable, frustrated, and cynical, and it was all because I wasn't working a proper program. I was feeling entitled. I failed to evaluate my behaviors in an honest way, and I was petrified to make the changes in my heart I knew I needed to make. The reason I tell you this story from my own experience is to showcase that while having over 10 years without alcohol is indeed a milestone, it is not a guarantee that a person will have developed the character that is to be honored and respected. Time is not the only factor when we look at somebody's abilities. Wisdom doesn't necessarily come with age. Wisdom comes from putting in the work to become wise. That is just as true when it comes to our careers. Having 15 years invested in a given profession isn't a guarantee that that person is the best one for the job. I once heard it put this way: there is having 10 years of experience, and then there is having 1 year of experience 10 times. There's nothing wrong with respecting somebody's longevity and dedication, but that is just one aspect of validation. Which leads us to the 5 variables of training. I once read an outstanding plan for determining the effectiveness of a training regimen. It was written by a Navy SEAL who discussed the following 5 variables of training. 1. Frequency. 2. Intensity. 3. Duration. 4. Recovery. And 5. Reflection. If you only look at 1 or 2 of these factors, then you only see a small piece of the puzzle. The same is true when you attempt to predict a person's level of influence and projected success without looking at the full picture. If you only look at duration, you consider how long someone has been in a job position or an industry. Frequency determines how often they have been in a career. Intensity is how hard they are striving in that career. Recovery will show how well they allowed the hard work to settle in and change them for the better. Reflection is how self-aware, willing to learn, and open they are to readjusting their approach. To give someone credit because they have been working in the same career for an extended amount of time is to ignore 80% of the equation. You must look at the full picture. One way to truly understand the totality of a person is to see them as more than an employee or coworker or boss and view them as a companion, approach them as a person that you are on a team with, working towards a goal that is bigger than both of you. Instead of saying, "This little bastard has no idea about anything," take the time to get to know their full story. You have no idea the path that they have had to travel to get to where they are. When you take the time to genuinely understand someone and who they are, you can massively shift the relationship. It's easy to stereotype people and to think that you have them all figured out based on one characteristic. But don't be that person. Be the person that asks the questions. Be curious. Be authentic. Be a great companion. Be a great human. Be the best you. Reason number 6. He's a micromanaging little pamper pants. My boss is clueless, such a little diaper filler. He has no idea what he is talking about, yet he tries to teach me things that I learned back in Accounting 101. This also goes for Selling 101, Pipe Fitting 101, Marketing 101, Advertising 101, Cigar Rolling 101. I mean, you get the idea. No one likes to be micromanaged. It's annoying and it makes you feel like you aren't trusted. And it's about as close to the opposite of occupational freedom as you can get. And the fact that it is coming from someone younger than you just makes it that much more infuriating. After all, the babysitter doesn't take orders from the kids they are babysitting, right? There are 2 main reasons for micromanagement. Number 1, the micromanager is nervous, insecure, and has control issues. And 2, the person being micromanaged cannot be trusted. Now, since that person in the scenario would be you, and you were smart enough to buy this book, that eliminates that reason, because I'm sure you're going to kill it. However, if you can't be trusted by your boss, get your shit together. Having a boss with any age with control issues can be a challenge. But here's the fascinating thing about control. Every single person in the world is outside of your control. If your boss is a micromanager, you have to deal with it. It may never change. And while it is a pain in the ass, it is still outside of your personal control. Accepting this is a powerful tool. So, what if acceptance of your micromanaging boss isn't leaving you satisfied and you're still looking for some good, solid advice on how to deal with this pesky, underoos wearing kid? Okay, here we go. Try saying something along the lines of, "Hey, I noticed that you asked me a couple of times about the report that is due on Friday. I know it's important to you, and I want you to know that I feel confident in completing it on time, and I've got it covered. You don't need to worry about it. It's in safe hands with me. I completely welcome you checking in on me if it'll put you at ease, but I know you have a lot on your plate, and this is something I can handle. You can trust me." Boom! In using this kind of approach, you are making them feel better, showing that you can be trusted and that you are the one wearing the big boy or big girl pants. And you did it without being a condescending ass. See how that works? It's always better to make an insecure person feel better instead of fueling their insecurity, especially when that person has the power to fire you. Side note, always remember that tone is important. We've all been on the wrong end of a misunderstood text message and experienced the fallout that follows when tone is misinterpreted. Hell, it's why we have to include conversation cues like LOL, haha, or your favorite expressive emoji so that other people can interpret your writing. No doubt about it, tone is pivotal. So make sure you are coming from a place of genuine care and service. There's a huge difference between Winnie the Pooh saying, "Don't worry, you can trust me," and Scarface saying, "I got this. Say hello to my little friend." My recommendation, choose Pooh. Many of us are often misunderstood. We have issues using the wrong tone or fail to come off as genuine and authentic. Here is something to keep in mind before you approach your boss. Serving versus pleasing. Remind yourself to come from a place of service. People-pleasing is small. People-pleasing contains an element of desperation. People-pleasing can be codependency in disguise. In The Prosperous Coach, Litvin and Chandler write, "Pleasing others is the real reason why people don't succeed. And in the end, pleasing others doesn't win any respect from them either." When someone is focused on being a people-pleaser, they can come off as needy or a kiss-ass or flat-out annoying. Instead of wondering, what should I say that will make them happy and like me, ask yourself, how can I serve them? Serving people is a benefit to everyone. We serve other people out of strength, power, and confidence. When we serve people, we are lifting everyone up. If you can master serving versus people-pleasing with your boss, it will help when it comes to your husband, wife, kids, when you're at the parent-teacher conference, or when you get pulled over for texting those fun little emojis while driving. Reason number 7. My boss is an egotistical prick. My boss is an egomaniac. I was never like that when I was their age. Oh, like you weren't? As much as we like to draw distinctions between the generations, the truth is your first boss probably said the same thing about you when you were 28. Hell, perhaps even worse. You weren't perfect. Think about all the mistakes you made when you were your boss's age. I remember reading about a young man. He was about 5'8". He weighed less than 150 pounds. He had a great sense of humor, was extremely reckless, and allowed his ego to get him into more trouble than he could manage. His name was William McCarty, and he began his criminal history by stealing clothes from a laundry. He then progressed to stealing horses and earned himself the nickname of Bad Boy of the West. Since he loved to witness the chaos his dirty deeds created, William's ego often brought him back to the scene of the crime. He believed he was untouchable, and that very belief led to his ultimate demise. After being arrested for the murder of a local sheriff, he escaped from the Lincoln County Courthouse. Instead of keeping a low profile, William's ego brought him out of hiding, and authorities quickly discovered him. After a wild shootout, the young man was bleeding on the ground, covered in dirt and gun smoke. And who was William McCarty? If you ever saw the movies Young Guns or Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, you might have guessed it already. Billy the Kid. We've all heard the legends. You think Billy the Kid's ego was because he was a millennial? Hell no. The kid's ego was because he was a young and immature man, and that is as true in 1880 as it is true in 2020 or it will be in 2180. Hashtag young and reckless. Stop blaming millennials for being young. Have some compassion. It takes time to develop the wisdom that can only come from years and years of experience. Quick reminder, ego is often just a front for extreme insecurity. Your boss is nervous they will screw up. Remember that little thing we talked about? Fear of failure? Here's another fantastic lesson from history books about ego. Stop trying to outshine your boss. This little gem comes to us from The Art of Worldly Wisdom, written in 1647, which states, "Avoid outshining your boss. They may tolerate being helped, but not surpassed. Therefore, let advice you give them appear more a jog to their memory than a beacon to what they couldn't find. The stars teach us lessons, because though her children are bright, they are never so forward as to outshine the sun." Obviously, this book deals with how today's economy and work environment is changing and creating new uncharted age role reversals. But let's take age out of the equation for 2 seconds. Most people hate being embarrassed. I would go so far to say that no one likes being embarrassed, other than your crazy Uncle Lou who wears a bra on his head when he gets drunk at Christmas dinner. No one wants to be told they are wrong, to feel stupid or belittled. So why would you do that to anyone, especially your boss, regardless of their age? Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to be a yes man and be silent when you see a better way of accomplishing tasks in the workplace. I am saying be smart and look at the interpretation, not just the intent. There are ways to get your point across without outshining, embarrassing, belittling, or exposing your boss's mistake or failure. When you genuinely want to help, remember the people-pleasing versus serving idea that I mentioned in the last chapter. Take the approach of serving someone and the business as a whole. By removing your ego, everyone can move forward and grow. I often ask myself, am I trying to people-please right now, or am I trying to serve them? When you answer this question honestly, after some deep introspection, you will be led to the right approach. I'm sure of it. If your words or actions are harmful to your boss's self-esteem, more likely your ego is way out of whack, regardless of how great your thoughts or ideas are. Check your ego and don't try to outshine your boss. But my boss thinks she knows everything. She thinks she's God's gift to the IT department. I'm going to send her an email virus. First off, don't do that. Second, as mentioned earlier in the quick reminder, your boss is a human, a person. Just like you, they are filled with fears and insecurities. Regardless of what your feelings are telling you, your boss wants to do well. They don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to get fired. Nobody likes being on unemployment, except for your crazy Uncle Lou. Remember him? While your boss may be exuding arrogance, they could quite possibly be terrified. Be the one that supports them. Think service, and don't assume you know more than they do. Do I need to say it again? Check your ego. I'll say it a couple more times. Check your ego. Check your ego. Check your ego. Hey, I hope that you're having a good time so far and maybe have even learned a couple of things. I just wanted to say I greatly appreciate you taking the time to listen to this audiobook. It means a lot to me, and I hope you're enjoying it. The sad truth is that most people only read about 15% of a book, and then life happens and they close the cover. The good news is you're at this spot in the book. You've already made it well past 15%, so kudos to you. Now I've got a favor to ask you. Please go to Amazon.com and give this book a review. It helps get the word out there, and truly believe that learning more about ageism will lead to a better workplace and a better world. Thanks in advance for your feedback. Now let's get back onto the book. Reason number 8. He oversimplifies everything. My boss oversimplifies everything, and he wants everything ASAP, and it's just not that simple. Several years ago, I was working at a UK-based TV production company on a development project for the Lifetime Network. After several days of editing a casting presentation, my executive producer asked if I could fix a particular part of the video. He wanted a better soundbite to help make the casting reel make a little more sense. I was a little annoyed since I had been working on it for days, and I wanted nothing more than to just check it off my to-do list. In an attempt to get him off my back, I claimed that I knew the footage like the back of my hand, and there was no way that what he wanted was even possible. I mean, why mess with perfection? I told him firmly and confidently that the soundbite he was looking for simply did not exist. My executive producer paused for a second, smiled, and said something to me that I'll never forget. He said, "Phillip, think about yes before you say no." And these words have stuck with me and haunted me throughout my entire career. Since I realized that he was not going to let this task slide, I adjusted my attitude from one of laziness into a spirit of defiant ego. I was determined to search the video for hours just to prove to him that what he wanted didn't exist. I would show him that he was wrong. Period. End of story. He had laid down the challenge, and my ego eagerly accepted it. I prepared myself for the soundbite hunt. I knew this would be hours of scrolling through footage. I was fueled by the desire to be right and was imagining my glory as it would ultimately be determined that I was so smart and capable and that no one should ever question me ever again. I began the mission. Only 35 seconds into my search, I found the soundbite that we needed. I adjusted the video, made the new edit. It was completed and fixed in less than 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Let me point out that I spent a solid 10 minutes arguing with him that it wasn't going to be possible. Needless to say, I was as proud as I was embarrassed. I was letting my ego get in the way of doing the job that I was hired to do. The truth is, I was lazy and behaving like a child. I didn't want to work on the video any longer. I was bored with it. I just wanted it to be finished. I was acting entitled, stuck in my own way of doing things, and didn't want to do it another way. Have you ever made a mountain out of a molehill before? That's a trick question. I know you already have. We all have. But okay, look, that's enough about me. Let's talk about you. You probably have been in your industry a long time. You know the ins and outs. You know that you can't just run out and make the changes your boss wants you to in an instant. This isn't how the industry works. Or at least that's what you're telling yourself. Have you ever said something couldn't be done, only to see it get accomplished with what appeared to be little or no effort? Obviously, I learned this lesson the hard way. When you catch yourself being resistant to a suggestion that you don't like or understand, or that might create a little more work for you, think about yes before you say no. Ask yourself, is this better for the project, for the team, for the company, or for me? Remember that you are being paid not because you showed up to work and are entitled to a paycheck. You are being employed to perform tasks, fulfill a role, and produce results. As for the oversimplification of assignments in the workplace from your underage boss, let's understand the mindset here. Our modern world is fascinated, dedicated, and outright obsessed with convenience and effortless accomplishment. For anyone under the age of 28, in many areas of life, they experience extreme convenience and simplicity thanks to technology, where older people, hey, you know the struggle. Remember spending hours at the library digging and hunting through books for a research project back in 1996? Well, now it's as quick and easy as a Google search. When you want food, but you don't want to put a t-shirt on and leave your bed, there's Grubhub, Eat24, Uber Eats, #convenience. If you want a movie, boom, you download it directly to your smartphone. If you want music with just a couple of clicks, it's playing. Need to buy a book, a shirt, a blanket, or a lawnmower in 2 days without putting on any pants? Thank you, Amazon Prime. Everything over the last decade has become damn near instantaneous and a borderline invitation for serial laziness. To baby boomers or Gen Xers, this is something that's new, but for young professionals and millennials, it is all they have ever known. Ease and convenience is and has been their way of life. Are you getting this? You can understand how they have been conditioned to think that things are just naturally going to be easy. They love instant gratification because it's always been there for them. Understand their outlook and make sure that you aren't overcomplicating things. Are you too set in your old ways? I know that probably stung a little bit, but you'll be okay. Have you been doing it for one way so long that you've forgotten the old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat? Where's your flexibility and adaptability? Don't be the old dog who's not willing to learn any new tricks. It's a new day. Embrace it. Sometimes the adjustments and the corrections really are that simple. Your attitude is what needs the adjustment. So here's a quick exercise. If there are some areas of your life that you feel could use some updates, list them below. In what areas do you think you are failing to upgrade or update your thinking? Feel free to pause this audiobook and think about it for 2 minutes. Welcome back. A common phrase you want to be cautious of is, it's easier said than done. Imagine you are in a sales meeting and your boss explains new strategies they want to implement for the company. You lean over to your coworker and half-heartedly mutter, that's easier said than done. Or picture your boss inviting you into their office to discuss ideas on how to boost productivity from the IT department. You're thinking to yourself, they talk about opportunities, but I only see challenges. They ask if you think their request is possible, and you reply with, it's a lot easier than done, boss. Well, no shit, Sherlock. We hear it all the time. Easier said than done. Whether it's doing homework, getting out of bed when the alarm sounds, keeping your kitchen sink clean, talking about living with honor, treating others with love, or working towards your career goals, practically any and everything in life is easier said than done. Whenever you hear a suggestion that you think will take more effort than you are currently willing to provide, you say it. It's such a defeatist way of thinking, isn't it? In using this phrase, you are instantly giving yourself permission and self-justification as to why it's okay to fail. It allows you to accept the mentality of, hell, why even try? It probably won't work anyway. The truth is, 99.9% of things are easier said than done. But that doesn't mean you don't do it. It's actually ridiculously easy to say almost anything. But you know what they say? Actions speak louder than words. Saying it's easier said than done is nothing more than an excuse. It is a statement that admits you don't want to take the necessary action to achieve the desired result. You are absolving yourself of the responsibility to act by allowing the perceived difficulty of the task or situation to win. You are playing small. You are fearful. Don't allow the fact that something is harder to do than saying it prevent you from actually doing it. In Brendon Burchard's Motivation Manifesto, he says this: when we are called into action by life and we fail to act, at best, we are lazy. At worst, we are a coward. Look, we are not meant to be cowards. We are not meant to be afraid. We are called to be greater. We are called to be courageous. We were created to be resilient, strong, bold, and powerful. Stop holding yourself back by allowing yourself to use the excuse that it is easier said than done. Don't worry about how hard it might be. If you know it is the right thing to do, then just do it. Here's another quote. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Jim Rohn. Have the courage to develop a spirit and identity of action. Reason number 9. She overcomplicates everything. My boss overcomplicates everything. She is always lost and confused, and her indecisiveness is giving me an ulcer. Look, in the previous chapter, we addressed ways that your boss can tend to oversimplify everything. Now we are going to explore how they can seem to overcomplicate everything. So which is it, Phil? Whether you are upset that your boss overcomplicates or oversimplifies, it really doesn't matter. What matters is how you respond. While it may seem like your boss is overcomplicating situations for no reason, let's take a deeper look at what might be causing this. They may be afraid of making a wrong decision, or maybe they're so massively indecisive they struggle in making any decisions at all. Or perhaps it's just a matter of knowing how to make a move when the pressure is on. Or overcomplicating could just be part of their process. They might like to think about a situation from all different angles, internally create a pros and cons list, and analyze the various possibilities and outcomes in order to make the best decision. You may perceive it as overcomplicating when they see it as being thorough. Abraham Lincoln famously said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." Not everyone is a shoot first and ask questions later kind of decision maker. Allow people to work according to their process. Now, you may be saying, "But Phillip, you don't understand. This little bastard kid of a boss is too indecisive. If they would just listen to me, everything would be fine. I have the experience and the answers. They just won't listen. It's driving me nuts." Regardless of the fact that you're older than your boss, you are not their parent. They are an adult too, who should be allowed to make up their own mind. It isn't your position to tell them what to do because you're older. Instead, try supporting them through their decision-making process. Instead of offering direct advice, try on some good old curiosity by asking compelling questions. In Michael Stanier's book, The Coaching Habit, he describes the importance of taming the advice monster. I love that. As a personal development coach, taming the advice monster helps me recognize when I am getting a little too preachy or overbearing with my clients, friends, coworkers, the lady in the car next to me, the tank top bro on the treadmill near me at the gym, and yes, even my boss. Ask why. Then ask why. And then ask why again. After all, there are a ton of different learning styles, and everyone formulates their responses in their own way. For instance, I used to struggle with shopping for shoes. I needed to see every damn pair in the mall, sometimes even 3 malls, before I could feel confident in pulling the trigger on purchasing the perfect pair of shoes. I was terrified that I would buy a pair of shoes, then march into a different store and find a better deal somewhere. Then I would resent myself for being so impulsive. I need to research. I need to know all the options. Then there are others who feel completely overwhelmed in having all of those possibilities. They'd rather just get in, get out, and get on with it. Ever heard of something called choice paralysis? As defined by Wikipedia, choice paralysis is the state of overanalyzing or overthinking a situation so that a decision or action is never taken, in effect paralyzing the outcome. A decision can be treated as overcomplicated with too many detailed options so that a choice is never made rather than try something and change if a major problem arises. As fascinating as choice paralysis is, I'm not going to dive into it here. There is a little bit of bonus material. A few years ago, I produced a science and psychology show for YouTube Red called Minefield with Michael Stevens of the Vsauce channel. We were nominated for 2 daytime Emmys for Outstanding Educational or Informational Series. So go check it out. In episode 5, Freedom of Choice, we examine choice paralysis. Check it out if you're interested in understanding more about how your brain handles choice. Sometimes we make fast decisions. Sometimes we need to think through every possible option and potential outcome. If every human acted the same, it would be a pretty dull planet. It's healthy to allow people to navigate their own processes and accept that you are not in control of others' lives. Now, I'm going to assume that you're not an asshole, at least not all the time. I'm sure the frustration with your boss is coming from a place of wanting to help them out, right? You probably just want to save them from themselves. You just want to help. In the addiction recovery world, there is a saying, you cannot cheat someone of their bottom. Rather than being the savior, there are times when you need to sit back and patiently wait while someone goes through their own process. You know how you can hear something a number of times, but it's that one time when it's said by the right person at the right moment when it finally hits you over the head, as if it's the first time you've ever heard it? That's what I'm talking about. You can't control when someone is really going to get it. Lifeguards learn this in training. If someone is drowning, they're usually panicking and violently thrashing their arms around. Lifeguards learn to approach the swimmer from behind to get out of harm's way. If they don't, they risk being dragged under the water by the victim. If you don't know how to help someone, you may soon find yourself in over your head. And yes, the pun is intended. Whether your boss or wife, husband, son, daughter, cousin is overcomplicating or oversimplifying a situation, ask powerful questions instead of letting that ugly advice monster show its face. The advice monster is more likely to stir up resentment than positive change. The last thing that you want is a boss that's resentful toward you. Beware of the advice monster. Reason number 10. It's amateur hour. My boss doesn't even know how to tie a damn tie. What a little twerp. What is this, amateur hour? I wish I had something really witty to say, something extremely insightful, but I can't. I got nothing. Honestly, amateur hour is just one of my personal favorite phrases. I think it's hilarious. I know it doesn't really move the needle forward, but it's fun. And that's a big part of why I wanted to write this book, to make all this ageism stuff fun to learn about. Maybe one day I'll grow up, but for now, it's amateur hour. Reason number 11. They spend more time on social media than working. Twitter this, Instagram that. My boss is obsessed with social media. Who the hell cares about ghost chatting? You can't write a book about younger bosses and millennials without addressing the impact that social media has in the workplace. I first discovered Facebook in 2004 as a freshman at Michigan State University. I remember thinking, what the hell is this? Why would I want this? No thanks. I thought it was just a phase. How wrong I was. In my mid-20s, I was invited to a summer pool party in the Hollywood Hills for a startup company's launch of what I thought was a silly app. It was the typical Hollywood crowd, bikinis, six-pack abs, a lot of hair care products. At the bar, there was a woven basket filled with little plastic pens with the company's logo on it. None of my friends had ever heard of the app company, so I asked what the company did. After someone explained that the app had something to do with a new thing called ride-sharing, I asked, why the hell would anyone get into a stranger's car? No one is going to want to get a ride from a random person they've never met. This is stupid. Well, that silly little ride-sharing startup company happened to be Lyft. I'm sure you've heard of them and their $15.1 billion valuation back in 2018. I hope that we've all just accepted the fact that social media isn't going anywhere. It's not a phase, it's not a millennial thing, it's not a high school thing, and it sure as hell isn't the root of all evil. It is a human innovation thing, and it's here to stay, at least throughout our lifetimes. So let's get into the conversation. Social media allows us to stay connected with friends and relatives around the world, enables us to more easily learn new trends across countless interests, and provides a way for us to do business in a whole new way. Now, I'd like to address the great plague of social media, otherwise known as the facade. For many people who spend a lot of time on social media, they are exceptional at displaying a very impressive exterior mask, while their real insecurities gain more and more strength beneath the surface. Social media provides a perfect environment for people to portray an image that just isn't true. People can abuse social media in a way that leads to feelings of inadequacy, fear of missing out or FOMO, fear of not being as special and unique as other people, and then these negative feelings can lead to overcompensating, which creates a downward spiral where each photo or post fuels the next. I'm not saying anything you haven't heard before, but a little refresher course can't hurt. I have a lot of conversations with people where they complain about the behavior of others and then turn around and fall into the same traps themselves. While social media is a fairly recent invention, the idea of people wearing masks is nothing new. In 1647, Spanish author and philosopher Gracian wrote, "Some people are all front, like houses half finished for lack of funds, having the entrances of a palace but the contents of a hut." When it comes to your team or your boss, take the time to see past the facades and the masks. Don't fall into the trap of seeing a palace when it's really a hut. See people as more than just an employee, coworker, or boss. Look for who they really are under the surface. Talk with your boss and ask genuine questions to learn more about them. Ask how they're doing. Get to know them. Ask them what's been going on in their life. People don't remember what you say as much as they remember how you make them feel. Whether your boss is younger or older, remember that they're still a human. Be a friend and listen. See beyond the Instagram filters and silly Snapchat faces. Whether you're a Gen Xer or a baby boomer who has learned to embrace and love posting on Twitter, or someone who couldn't care less about what your 28-year-old boss ate at Whole Foods today, social media is not slowing down. It's not going anywhere. And to be honest, it won't be the last world-changing innovation or trend that you're going to experience in your life. Think about The Godfather. No, not your friend's best friend George who makes inappropriate comments at Thanksgiving dinner. I'm talking about the 1977 Francis Ford Coppola classic movie about Don Corleone. How much did you enjoy that movie? How iconic is it? How important to culture is it? Well, guess what? I never saw it. Now, before you get all up in arms about how I don't understand and appreciate the classics, or I don't care about anything that was made before 2000, I'm going to make you an offer you literally can't refuse. Check your judgmental and ageist ego, or else. The Godfather is an iconic film, and you probably saw it. Another iconic film is the 1948 Alfred Hitchcock classic Rope, which you probably didn't see. And I have another secret to tell you. I have never seen Lord of the Rings, any of them. That might not be a big deal to you, but I'm a TV producer. I should be well-versed in all things entertainment, right? I also never saw Harry Potter or any of the 10 or so Star Wars films. I don't even remember how many they made. Sorry, George Lucas. Look, when people in the entertainment industry learn I've never seen those franchises, they're baffled, confused, astonished, sometimes even angry. But I'm sure you have your own musical tastes, TV shows, trilogy features, and Netflix documentaries that you think the world would be a better place if everyone would just check them out. So why doesn't everyone just listen to you? Because everyone has their own preferences. If you picked up on anything this far in the book, it is that we are each unique and interesting people who come from different backgrounds, educations, interests, neighborhoods, etc. So my point is, let it slide. Instead of ridiculing people for not having seen a particular movie of your generation or not knowing who Led Zeppelin is, try introducing them to it. If you think that it's a disservice to the world, that they never saw Girls Just Want to Have Fun with John Cougar Mellencamp and Sarah Jessica Parker, then send them a clip via email, or better yet, step up your game with an interesting meme. Hashtag meme game strong. For all my salespeople out there, you know that the better results come when you showcase a benefit to your client rather than ridiculing them for being behind the times. Unless, of course, you are dealing with a person who's rocking a Razr flip phone, then it's open season, ridicule away. Think about how you can serve your boss and your coworkers, and you will always find yourself in a better position to get your way. Here's another example to drive this home. Yes, here comes a pun. People in Los Angeles love to complain about the traffic. The damn 101 is a parking lot. There are just too many cars. Y'all need to go back to Nebraska. The traffic is so bad in LA that residents shy away from making plans with people that live on the other side of the 405 freeway. In a city filled with people trying to prove they belong, some think that by hating LA traffic, you prove that you are jaded enough to belong here. I mean, they don't call it Holly Weird for nothing. But look, here's the truth. Driving in LA is something people do every day. There aren't many options for avoiding it. So why complain about something you know you have to do every day? It makes much more sense to learn how to love the traffic, embrace the time alone, enjoy the weather, cue up a good audiobook, and relax. Complaining about the traffic in Los Angeles is like screaming about having to tie your shoelaces. Either buy slip-on shoes or quit your crying. I like to use this same approach when it comes to social media. If you relate to the above stories and social media is driving you up the proverbial wall, try a social media cleanse. I get it. The word cleanse feels so California, but it's what we do out here. Look, you don't need to delete all the apps forever, but give yourself a good month off. You can give everyone a heads up if you want, so they don't wonder if you got kidnapped or tossed into a ditch, but trust me, your friends and your family will still be there when you've completed your cleanse. After all, they're just as obsessed as you are. Story time. A few years ago, I was right in the middle of a social media cleanse at a time when I was producing a digital series for YouTube Red called Minefield. I was driving from the University of California, Irvine back to LA with the host of the show, Michael Stevens. As we were in the car chatting about social media, psychology, medical advancements, and whatever in the house I could think of to try to prove I was smart, I realized that this was a great social media opportunity. I wanted to post an Instagram photo, a Snapchat story, a Facebook update. I thought, I know I'm on a social media cleanse, but this won't take long. It'll be quick. Hell, maybe just a little tweet. In my head, it all made perfect sense. This was my moment to show everyone how cool I was, and that I know famous people, and I work with them, and they drive in my car. Look, even as I say this, I understand how ridiculous that mindset is, but don't act like you can't relate. Luckily for me, being on the social media cleanse, I had already deleted the apps from my phone, so they were not easily accessible. Don't worry, I didn't remove the profiles entirely. I mean, I'm not a monster, for God's sakes. Not having the apps right there, ready to click, I saved myself a lot of embarrassment. First off, Michael Stevens is a great guy, and he would have had no problem posing for a photo with me. We actually have several together. But it gave me time to sit and ponder a couple of fundamental questions. Why do you want to post this photo so badly, Phillip? What are you hoping to get out of it? Are you trying to use your friend as a way to prove something? If so, what exactly are you trying to prove? And why is that important? And then boom! I went into in-depth self-analysis, and it made me understand how social media can have a hold over us, especially me. While self-reflection is always helpful, it also gave me some time to practice self-discipline. Look, I had committed to a social media cleanse. I had set a goal. I had made a decision. If I had opened that app and posted a photo, even when I told myself I wouldn't, I would have been proving my lack of discipline. Do I risk that? Do I open the app? No way. I chose to enjoy the moment and connect with Michael instead of worrying about the facade. It allowed me to be present for our road trip from Orange County back to LA. By shifting my focus to real, authentic, genuine human relationship versus virtual ones, I was able to stay present in a social environment with another human. I stopped trying to connect with everyone in the digital world and chose to build a more meaningful relationship with someone who was sitting right next to me. That mindset has helped me focus more time on local people in my area instead of trying to live in the cloud. Side note, if you do love science and technology, please check out Michael Stevens' YouTube channel, Vsauce. Reason number 12. A direct message to millennials. Baby boomers destroyed America. Walter really needs to retire. I mean, this guy still has an AOL email account. I'm sure there are a handful of millennials out there scheming to get some quality info out of this book to use against their older coworkers. You bought this thinking it would be like studying the enemy's playbook. Oh, you clever little millennial, trying to get a leg up. You overachiever, you. It totally makes sense, I get it. After all, it's why I have a subscription to Cosmopolitan magazine. I used to. Hey, it's for dating research. How else am I going to learn about how to tell if he's good in bed? Or your breast called and they're feeling neglected. How to pamper and pleasure them. My car turned me on. Hilarious tales of accidental pleasure. Yes, all real articles from Cosmo magazine, I swear to God. Anyway, I understand you may be a hotshot, a fast riser, a prodigy, but no one gets far in the long run when you're running it alone. Become friends with your older coworkers, colleagues, and subordinates. Why? Despite their differences with the way you grew up, they still have a lot of knowledge and wisdom for you to soak up. It's true. There are very few things that are substitutes for experience. You are sitting on an untapped gold mine with some of your more experienced employees. One of the significant characteristics of a successful leader is being open to opinions and suggestions that are in direct conflict with your own beliefs. Here's why it matters. You may learn a thing or two, and your business and life will be better for it in the long run. Being able to accept constructive criticism, even from your employees, is a huge sign of maturity, and it can be also extremely helpful in building rapport with your team as well as achieving greater self-awareness. Abraham Lincoln used to fill his presidential cabinet with advisors who would question his judgment and challenge him so that he knew he was viewing all sides of an issue. And they put him on the $5 bill, so you can trust him. Famous author and life coach Tony Robbins often tells the story of when Barack Obama asked him for coaching. Tony told the president that he would offer advice, but wanted to be upfront about the fact that he did not agree with his political agenda. People in the room gasped. How could he? Everyone was shocked, offended. Everyone except for no drama Obama. He understood the importance of having people that can push you and challenge your thinking. If you want to grow, don't surround yourself with yes men and yes women. If you can learn to do the same, you too can be like Abe. And then maybe they'll put your face on some Bitcoin. Or at least maybe your employees won't call you a jackass behind your back. Reason number 13. He has no work-life balance. My boss has no friends, no family, no hobbies. All he does is work 24/7 and expects me to do the same. I have a life, damn it. I have worked for bosses who were completely glued to their desks. Emails being sent at 3:40 a.m., pillows and blankets kept in their office just in case, wearing the same clothes on Monday they wore on Friday. All right, maybe I'm exaggerating just a bit. And when it comes to describing your workaholic boss, more than likely, so are you. Your boss is not an alien or a robot that runs on coffee and gets their highest fulfillment from keeping an empty email inbox. Your boss is a human who may be experiencing some difficulty with managing work-life balance, just the same as most other people in the world who struggle to juggle career, health, fitness, entertainment, friendships, relationships, parenting, soccer practice, yoga class, the newest superhero movie, etc. We hear people talk about work-life balance all the time. They'll say, you need to take more time to enjoy your life. You need to make more time for fun. You work too hard. You don't work hard enough. Or the ultimate mantra of work hard, play hard. Perhaps the easiest way to illustrate this mantra is by imagining work-life balance as a playground seesaw. Why do we tend to express the balance of work versus life as if they were in direct competition? It's as if there is a silent war happening inside of us stating, as your work is thriving, your personal life is crumbling. The work-life balance is viewed by many as a zero-sum balance. This zero-sum philosophy is, as one end goes up, the other end must go down. Doesn't that sound depressing? I say, to hell with that. That is not the truth. That is not the way it has to be. Most of us spend more than 40 hours a week at work. We are cheating ourselves if we choose to see this time as something that's in direct conflict within an enjoyable personal life. Our careers offer us the ability to enjoy a ton of fun, excitement, and fulfillment if we are willing to change and reshape our mentality toward work. In the book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, the psychologist talks about how we can create our own games inside the workplace that help bring more enjoyment and purpose to our jobs. The book states, contrary to what we usually believe, moments like these, the best moments in our lives, are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times, although such experiences can also be enjoyable if we have worked hard to obtain them. The best moments usually occur when a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. Optimal experience is thus something that we make happen. For a child, it could be placing with trembling fingers the last block on a tower she has built, higher than any she has built so far. For a swimmer, it could be trying to beat his own record. For a violinist, mastering an intricate musical passage. For each person, there are thousands of opportunities, challenges to expand ourselves. You have the power to shatter the idea that work and life are competitors, and instead marry them together and learn to enjoy your work, regardless of how difficult, repetitive, or stressful you've previously chosen to perceive it. Stop considering your career as an evil necessity of life. Stop seeing it as an annoyance. Regain control over your outlook towards your work. This is one of the keys of self-mastery. When you work towards self-mastery and apply what you've learned to your work-life balance, you can enjoy a situation where you no longer have to feel torn between them. You can have your cake and eat it too. Now, I can hear you. But Phillip, what about my boss? They are the one with no work-life balance. Hey, give them a copy of this book. Look, you can only control yourself. Your boss's actions and outlooks are outside of your realm of control, just as everyone else's is. If your boss is making unreasonable requests with regard to your work-life balance, then it may be time to set some boundaries and expectations. Take pride in knowing that I wrote this book for you, not for your boss. Focus on the adjustments you need to make in your own life before you try to change your boss or other colleagues. Reason number 14. She's so irresponsible. She reminds me of me. My boss is as irresponsible as my kid. I don't know what's harder, getting an answer from her or getting my kid to clean his room. Do you ever feel like different people in your life all seem to make the same annoying mistakes? Perhaps everyone seems lazy or pushy or lacking moral character. Have you ever thought that your boss acts like your reckless child, or your boss behaves the same as your unorganized husband? It seems crazy that the people in your life all seem to suffer from the same character flaws, right? It's almost like you are on a prank TV show where everyone teamed up to make your life a little bit more difficult, just for the fun of it. What's wrong with everyone? If those last paragraphs felt all too real for you, guess what? More than likely, the problem isn't with them, it's with you. Now, before you get all offensive and bent out of shape, I want to share some information with you about a little defense mechanism called psychological projection. Our good friends over at Wikipedia describe psychological projection as a defense mechanism in which the human ego defends itself against unconscious impulses or qualities, both positive and negative, by denying their existence in themselves while attributing them to others. Psychological projection is used to protect our precious egos. By taking an internal conflict you have with yourself or with anyone else and pushing it outward onto a specific person or group of people, you have unconsciously chosen to participate in the mental gymnastics of projection. It allows you to avoid addressing, taking responsibility for, and dealing with your own internal conflict. Projection gives you a feeling of superiority over others while simultaneously overlooking your own insecurities. It causes you to focus on the negative attributes of others, which can then strain those relationships and, more importantly, keep you from building awareness of your own areas of personal growth. The projection also prevents you from identifying the underlying feelings that are generating the unconscious conflict. The short-term denial of your internal feelings will do nothing more than allow the feelings to grow stronger and more difficult to overcome in the long run. We must make sure we are not projecting our own personal frustrations and resentments from people in our personal lives onto people in our professional lives. For instance, I can never get my husband to do work around the house, so it's no surprise I can't get my boss to lift a finger in planning the company Christmas party. Look, I have a secret to tell you. Your boss is not your spouse. They are not your child, and they are not the annoying Uber driver who got lost on the way to the airport. Leave problems from home at home. Even if your boss does something similar to your husband or wife, they are not the same person. Oftentimes, psychological projection leads to unfair generalizations, such as, just because one doctor was incorrect in your life does not mean that all doctors are incompetent. Just because one man or woman broke your heart does not mean you'll never experience true love. Just because one person your junior was defiant and immature does not mean that they will all treat you with disrespect. As they say in new relationships, do not punish your new boyfriend or girlfriend for the actions of your ex. Hashtag leave your baggage at the door. When looking at your younger boss, ask these questions. How well do they complete their tasks? How well do they treat people? How well do they work with others? It is crucial to treat each person as an individual. Don't fall into the trap of lumping them all into a category because it makes you feel better. If you're doing this, you're most likely projecting. Try the following exercise to help you become more aware of psychological projections that may exist in your life. Projection exercise. Write down some of the common frustrations you are currently experiencing in your personal life, and then identify ways those frustrations could be playing out in your professional life. Since this goes both ways, try to identify feelings you have in the workplace and how you might be bringing them home and projecting onto people in your personal life. Then repeat the exercise by looking for areas of life where past experiences may be negatively impacting your current outlook on people, places, and things in your life. First, look at the personal versus the professional. Take a couple minutes to think about it. Go ahead and pause. And now, look at your past experiences versus your current situation. Feel free to pause this audiobook and take a couple minutes to really think about this assignment. Here's a bonus. Now that you are more aware of psychological projection, I want to introduce another fun psychological phenomenon that affects our subconscious minds and the way we perceive others. It's called the halo effect. The halo effect is the tendency for positive impressions of a person, company, brand, or product in one area to positively influence one's opinions or feelings in the other area. An example of the halo effect might be perceiving someone as being more intelligent, more successful, and more popular if they are attractive and well-dressed. Anyone who spends more than 7 minutes watching television and pays attention to marketing and advertising knows that this cognitive bias is used to influence our behavior as well as our bank accounts. But in order to navigate the workplace in a fair and equal manner, it is important to understand the halo effect and its evil twin, horn effect, which causes a person to perceive someone else as completely awful based on a single negative trait. You might assume that someone is incompetent and lazy because they have wrinkles in their shirt. Remember, you are not the Iron Police. Understanding the halo and horn effects and their influence on your subconscious feelings towards others prevents you from falling into the trap of treating people differently based on a specific set of characteristics, some that may be misleading. Reason number 15. Damn! Am I the problem? Holy crap, maybe I'm the problem, not my boss. Damn, I'm the one creating all this havoc. Damn! Damn! I love to beat myself up mentally. Okay, look, that's a lie. I hate it. I wish I wasn't so hard on myself. But I'm working on it. I bet you can be pretty hard on yourself too. Think about how many times you've said, I'm my own worst critic. Why do we do that? There must be some reason, right? I mean, it doesn't make us feel good. It doesn't serve us. So why do we do it? I had an epiphany the other day. It was Veterans Day, so I went to the Los Angeles Memorial Cemetery near the campus of UCLA to pay my respects to fallen soldiers. As I was walking past the grave sites and reading the awards and honors achieved by these men and women, I began to reflect on my own life and replaying specific memories from my childhood. This trip down memory lane led me to ask myself some interesting questions. Why am I so hard on myself? Why do I beat myself up so much? Why is it so difficult for me to forgive myself after I've made a mistake? Pretty heavy questions. After much thinking and walking, the answers came, and it was all quite simple. I've been doing it for a long time. I've had a lot of practice with it, and I've gotten pretty damn good at it. At some point in childhood, in an effort to seek approval and mask my insecurities with others, I developed the habit, and I never corrected the behavior. It's that simple. It's just a bad habit, nothing more, nothing less. It's almost silly when you think of it that way, isn't it? Could it be time to do some course correction and build some new, more positive habits? I mean, I think so. So here is a speedy 3-step process for the next time you catch yourself beating yourself up. Number 1, recognize. Recognize the fact that you're doing it. It's hard to correct a habit that you're not aware exists. Recognize when you are beating yourself up. Number 2, interrupt. Interrupt the bad habit and replace it with a new, better one. Instead of using the usual negative self-talk, immediately create a new positive statement that better supports you. Lucky for us, we don't have to be stuck in childish thinking anymore. Number 3, encourage. Encourage someone else. Instead of tearing yourself down, get out of your own head, take a moment, and build someone else up about anything. Call or text message someone and genuinely encourage them. It'll lift you up more than you know. Recognize, interrupt, and encourage. It has been said that all suffering is an obsession with self. Stop obsessing over yourself and go encourage someone else. Recognize the behavior, interrupt the habit and replace it with a better one, and encourage someone else. It is essential to look at your thoughts and behaviors closely to evaluate whether you are creating a life that serves you. Being able to take a look at yourself honestly and fearlessly is another crucial component of self-mastery. Remember the integrity scan from earlier in the book? It is necessary to practice self-awareness and reflect on how you are living your life. However, it doesn't do any good to relive your mistakes and beat yourself up about it. You shouldn't live your life punishing yourself for every moment when you fell short of perfection. You must love and offer grace to yourself. Progress over perfection. Is all this advice backed by science? I don't know. Look, I'm not a scientist. The information is backed by my own personal experience and the experience of people I've worked with. I am much happier when I love myself and love others versus when I'm scolding myself for not being perfect. recognize, interrupt, encourage. Here's some bonus material. Thank you to my good friend and comedian Daniel Weingarten, who tipped me off to some very important terms and descriptions put together by Anxiety Canada. Here's some thinking traps to avoid and how they may sound. Fortune telling. I know I'll mess up. Black and white thinking. I planned to eat healthy, but I had a piece of cake, so now my diet is a complete failure. Mind reading. Other people don't like me. Labeling. I'm a loser. Overgeneralizing. I will never be good at giving presentations. Overestimating danger. If I have to recreate that report, I will die. Filtering. One person left during the presentation, so everyone must have hated it. Catastrophizing. I'm going to fail, and then everyone will laugh at me, and there will be a Facebook page created where everyone talks about my failure, and I'll never be able to go out in public again. Should statements. I should never make mistakes, and I should be a millionaire by the time I'm 25, or else I'm a loser. Sounds like a lot of things to avoid, right? Look, don't worry about it. You're crushing it. End of chapter. Reason number 16. That kid is crushing life already. I wish I could start over. This little bastard has his entire life ahead of him. Youth is wasted on the young. Quick tip. Anything that comes out of your mouth that begins with young, little, baby-ass, newborn, half-grown, fledgling, unripe, pubescent means that your ageism is holding you back. Many of us struggle with focusing too much on what we don't have instead of what we do. We all have been sold the idea that there is no substitute for time. You can't get it back. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's easy to reflect on what you haven't done with the time you've been given and then judge yourself harshly. If you've had friends or family who've passed away, it makes your own mortality seem that much more real. But the key isn't to focus on the years you feel that you have lost. The key is to focus on the years that you have yet to come. Let me let you in on a little secret. When you say those damn kids have their whole life ahead of them, well, so do you. Honestly, nothing is guaranteed. All we have is today. Billions of people have come and gone in this world who never reached your current age. And while it may be morbid as hell to think like that, some of these pubescent bosses or coworkers of yours may not make it to the age you are either. Car crashes, cancer, suicide, heart disease, homicide, liver disease, stroke, drug overdose. According to the Center for Disease Prevention and Control, more than 7,000 people die every day in the United States. 7,000 every single day. Each day is precious and filled to the rim with moments deserving of gratitude. When you focus on living in the now and work on appreciating what you have, you will forget about what you don't have. Don't live 5 years in the future and 10 years in the past. Be present and excited to live in the current moment. Whether it's 50 more years, 5 more years, or 5 more days, do not be concerned with the perceived time that other people have left in their lives, but be focused on how to make the most of the time you have left. One way I do this is to make a gratitude list. Try it for 2 weeks. Look, don't be a stubborn shit. It'll only take 5 minutes a day for the next 2 weeks. You can handle it. As a matter of fact, you can get started right now. Pause this and think of 5 things that you're grateful for. I hope you did it. Welcome back. If you're still being a stubborn shit and you didn't stop to think about it, here are some examples of gratitude list items. I have a full head of hair. I am bald, so I don't have to spend money on hair care products. My kids didn't turn out to be drug dealers. My arms and legs work. I have leisure time in my life to sit and listen to a book about my annoying 28-year-old boss. I didn't have to do anything for my heart to beat and my lungs to keep breathing during the night. They just worked. The Detroit Lions won the Super Bowl. Okay, I don't know what year you're listening to this, but look, I have high hopes for my Detroit Lions. There's nothing wrong with trying to manifest things into existence, okay? Look, let it be known if the Lions win the Super Bowl within the next 10 years, you have me to thank for it. After you've made your gratitude list, read it back to yourself out loud. There are powerful things that happen to your soul when you are thankful and show gratitude to the universe. Give it a try. You've already spent more time listening to this book than it will take you to do this exercise over the next 14 days. Let me know how it goes. Contact me on social media at Phillip Andrew LA. Now, you may think that I've been a little tough on you in your current way of thinking. You are not alone. I have been guilty of ageism as well. It's actually one of the biggest reasons I wrote this book. I noticed that I was allowing people's ages to affect my own confidence, self-worth, and work ethic. The truth is, whether you are 65, 55, 45, or 21, comparing yourself with others based on age or a million other factors is normal. It's also more detrimental than you probably realize. Comparison leads you to judge those younger than you as immature, inadequate, incapable. But you don't have to take my word for it. After all, Theodore Roosevelt famously said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." You can trust him. My next examples might not have stellar reputations on par with the 26th president, but it doesn't mean they can't provide solid arguments against ageist thinking. Let's switch from a politician to sport as we take a look at the highest payday boxing match in history. After years of training in MMA, in 2017, 29-year-old Conor McGregor made his boxing debut in his match against Floyd Mayweather, then 40 years old. McGregor was paid $30 million to fight Floyd Mayweather. $30 million! Conor McGregor earned a net worth of about $85 million, and he hadn't even reached his 30th birthday. What an accomplishment! McGregor didn't let his age get in the way of him chasing his dream. As a matter of fact, there were many who felt that his younger age even gave him a leg up on Mayweather. Nevertheless, experience did win. Mayweather in 10 rounds. Boom! Plus, Mayweather walked away with $100 million from the fight. Not a bad payday for him. To my 40-something friends who are listening to this book, take some pride. Hell, a boxer at 40 has a health age of about 75. Okay, now switching gears. For any of my movie buffs out there, the movie War Dogs told the story of two young men who managed to trick the U.S. government into a massive military and weapons contract during the war in Iraq. The story was first reported in Rolling Stone magazine's article, The Stoner Arms Dealers, How Two American Kids Became Big-Time Weapons Traders, and then it got turned into a Hollywood blockbuster. Business partners David Packow and Efron Diveroli were able to secure a contract of $300 million for weapons and ammunition. Packow was 23 and Diveroli was 19. Now, given the fact that they both ended up in jail for defrauding the government, I am not saying they should be on the power list of the best 25 under 25, but still, it's pretty impressive for a couple of young bucks. I took the liberty of compiling a list of some accomplished youngsters and historical figures who experienced tremendous achievements before the age of 30. Young accomplishments. Justin Bieber. It's easy to dismiss the Biebs because he has been in the public eye for so long now, but we forget that Justin was discovered on YouTube before the YT was as monumental at finding new talent as it is today. By the age of 15, his first studio album had gone 3x platinum, selling over 5 million records worldwide. The Canadian entertainer, born in 1994, now enjoys a net worth somewhere north of $250 million. Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg was born in 1984, and it is undeniable that he has changed the world with his billion-dollar idea. At the age of 20, Mark dropped out of Harvard during his sophomore year to found our beloved Facebook and is now one of the wealthiest men in the world. Evan Spiegel. Staying in the world of social media, Spiegel, born in 1990, became the co-founder of Snapchat in 2012 at only 22 years old. Ashley Quarles. While most other middle schoolers were wondering what the periodic table was, Quarles made her first million at 14 years old. Born in 1990, she created Whatever Life, which is an online community geared towards millennials who enjoy indie rock, alternative fashion, sex, and relationships. Now you may be thinking, this has all been made possible by the internet. Challenge accepted. Keep listening. But first, just for fun, the following is a list of successful entrepreneurs and the age they dropped out of college. Age 19. David Geffen, founder of Geffen Records. Julian Assange, founder, WikiLeaks. Michael Dell, founder, Dell. Bill Gates, co-founder, Microsoft. Mark Zuckerberg, founder, Facebook. Evan Williams, co-founder, Twitter. Age 20. Paul Allen, co-founder, Microsoft. Ralph Lauren, founder, Ralph Lauren. Larry Ellison, founder, Oracle. Jack Dorsey, co-founder, Twitter. Age 21. Dustin Moskovitz, founder, Asana and Facebook. Travis Kalanick, founder, Uber. Larry Page, founder, Google. Steve Jobs, founder, Apple. Side note, Richard Branson and Quentin Tarantino both dropped out of high school at 15 years old. Here's some more young accomplishments from before the internet. Alexander the Great. When he was only 16, he founded his first colony, Alexandropis. Louis Braille. He invented the Braille system at the age of 15. Joan of Arc. She led the French army over the English at the Battle of Orleans at age 18. Jordan Romero. When most kids are climbing trees at 13 years old, Romero managed to climb Mount Everest. 2 years later, he became the youngest climber to scale the tallest mountain on every continent, called Seven Summits, by the age of 15. Doogie Howser. Doogie Howser was a doctor who... Wait a minute. All right, that was a TV show. But there was a doctor from southern India who did become a doctor and started his practice in 1995 at the age of 17. I think his favorite TV show was Doogie Howser, but, don't quote me on that. Hey, bonus trivia. Actor Neil Patrick Harris was only 16 when he landed the leading role in ABC's Doogie Howser, MD. Here's some young accomplishments in music. Mozart. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was dead by age 35. He passed away from a severe fever, but not before composing 103 minuets, 50 symphonies, 25 piano concertos, and receiving the endearing nickname of Wolfie. The infamous 27 Club. The iconic 27 Club represents musicians who all died at the age of 27. This club includes Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse. If the list were expanded to include celebrities who died before 30, you'd also have Jean Harlow, Heath Ledger, Buddy Holly, Otis Redding, Tupac Shakur, James Dean, River Phoenix, Brandon Lee, Selena, Biggie Smalls, and many more. None of these people ever made it to their 30th birthday, yet they all had huge impacts on our history, society, and pop culture. Now look, don't go crying and complaining about how you've never accomplished anything. In the same way that the U.S. military tears you down to build you up, I've put together a list of people who were late bloomers and accomplished great things later in life so that we can build up our hope and confidence. Here are some late bloomer accomplishments. Taichi Igarashi. He was 100 years old when he climbed to the peak of Mount Fuji. Now, it wasn't his first time doing it, but hell, if you can't find that impressive, I'm surprised you haven't lit this book on fire yet and buried it in the backyard. Peter Roget. He was 73 when he invented the thesaurus in 1805. Noah Webster. Yeah, the dictionary dude. A year after the thesaurus hit, he finally completed the American Dictionary at age 66. It had taken him 26 years. Talk about commitment and persistence. Colonel Harlan Sanders. The colonel was 65 years old when he invented finger-licking good KFC. Ben Franklin. Good old Ben was 70 when he signed the Declaration of Independence. Dr. Ruth Westheimer. If sex was your thing, then Dr. Ruth Westheimer was your go-to gal. Dr. Ruth was working at Planned Parenthood when she gave a lecture in 1980 that led to a legendary talk show at the age of 52. Ray Kroc. Ray was a salesman who had big dreams for the McDonald's restaurants. He spoke with the brothers who owned the restaurant, then founded McDonald's System, Inc. when he was 52, and waistbands have been growing ever since. Ken Jeong. Jeong is best known as his character Leslie Chow from the Hangover trilogy. He was in his late 30s and still working as a licensed physician when he filmed the movie Knocked Up during a vacation week. While not necessarily considered a late bloomer, making such a huge career change at the age of 38 would terrify most. Now, I don't know where you fall in comparison with these ages, but hear my plea now. Stop comparing. When I got sober back in 2009, it would have been easy for me to compare myself right out of 12-step recovery meetings, since I was young and hadn't personally experienced many of the stories I was hearing at meetings. However, I was lucky enough to learn two very monumental things. One, relate to people, don't compare yourself to them. And 2, the power of yet. I was going to recovery meetings in Metro Detroit, and I was often the youngest person in the room by many years. Actually, by decades. I could have easily told myself that I didn't belong because I was too young and I didn't fit in. But I discovered how to listen and how to relate, which enabled me to learn a great deal from them. I heard stories of people who had lost their husbands or wives, had kids that hated them, had been fired or destroyed their own business, all because of alcohol and drug abuse. None of those things had happened to me, yet. If I had continued on the path I was on, I very well could have found another DUI, or destroyed a marriage, or hurt myself, or worse, someone else. Yet applies to ageism as well. Instead of looking at your younger boss in comparison, learn how to relate to them on some level. Look for the similarities. Remember that comparing divides, and relating unifies. Combine that lesson with the power of yet, and you will be well on your way to achieving some peace of mind. You may not be the boss, yet. You may not have even started pursuing your true passion, yet. You may not have paid off your mortgage, yet. All those things can become realities in your future. Remember that clarity is power. Have the courage to write down your goals you have and start taking the steps towards them. This is your life to live. As Victorian novelist George Eliot wrote, "It is never too late to be what you might have been." In this book, I have identified ways to shift your perspective, and I've given you some actual homework in real-world applications to help you take control of your workplace and your life. This won't be easy. There will be resistance. Life has a way of putting obstacles in the way, such as bills, kids, to-do lists, visitation from the in-laws, holidays, vacations, fantasy football, the stock market, the neighbor's kids who just ran through your rose bushes. It is easy to get distracted, become overwhelmed, and procrastinate. It has been said before, we do not need more time. We need a stronger reason to act so that we use time more effectively. One thing I force myself to do so I can better utilize my time is create urgency. I heard a story of a man talking with a woman who complained that she struggled with procrastination. The man asked the woman, "Hey, if I said, meet me here tomorrow morning at 4:30 a.m., and I'll give you $3 million, what would you do?" The woman very quickly replied, "I'd be here at 4:15, and she smiled and laughed. The man said, "See, you don't have a procrastination problem. Your goals just aren't that important to you. You have no urgency for your goals." Now, I'm sure we all would find a way to wake up super early if $3 million was on the line. Just look how early people get up to save $300 on a TV on Black Friday. You must look at yourself and evaluate the areas of life where you find yourself putting off your goals. Why aren't you taking the necessary steps towards achieving the goals that you say are important to you? What we need to do, create a sense of urgency to go for your goals. Turn "one day I'll do this" into "I'll do it now." Establish deadlines and keep your word to yourself. #accountability. When I was getting ready to move to LA from Detroit, one of the best pieces of advice I received from an executive producer friend was pick a day and no matter what happens, you leave Detroit on that day. It worked. I picked my date, February 27th, and when it came, I was in the car and I was on my way west. Picking the day made the goal real. It turned "I want to move to Los Angeles" into "I am moving to Los Angeles on February 27th. It created the urgency for me to get things in order, so I was prepared and ready to move. Eliminate your one day or someday thinking. Now is the time to take the first step. Life will continue to happen, and there will always be new obstacles that you had failed to consider. Life will get in the way, so start acting urgently. When you have time today, get it done today. If you don't trust me, trust Ben Franklin. He said, "Do not put off for tomorrow that which can be done today." If you don't trust him, trust Abe Lincoln, who said, "Leave nothing for tomorrow which can be done today." It is easier to create urgency when there is a big enough reward at stake. If you believe that on the other end of your urgency was $3 million waiting for you, you'd probably find the motivation and dedication to complete the goal, wouldn't you? Make sure your goals are big enough to create the urgency in your action to crush the distractions and procrastination. Be the urgent care doctor for your goals. Reason number 17. Holy shit, she thinks she's old? My boss complains about being too old. She thinks that because she didn't get carded when buying alcohol, she's an over-the-hill dinosaur. So then, what does that make me? Look, I totally get it. It's annoying to listen to someone talk about how bad they have it when you would love to have their problems. No one wants to hear somebody complain about their first wrinkle when your forehead looks like a desert science project. Oh wow, you have one gray hair? I spend $150 a month covering all of mine, you little shit. Listen, it's all relative. Remember when you finally made it to high school and you thought you were so much older and more mature and you didn't have to have the dinosaur-themed birthday party anymore because you had evolved? We all have times we can reflect back on to see how silly or naive we were. I was 13 when I thought I was so cool and mature, yet I had a comforter on my bed with logos of every national football team on it. It wasn't very mature, although I would gladly take that comforter back. I love that thing. I'd love to see somebody's look when they come over to my bedroom for the first time and they see Detroit Lions draped over my race car bed. Hashtag vroom vroom. We have a tendency to think our problems and insecurities are the most important ones we've ever faced. Why? Because it's happening right now, to us, and humans are generally awful at putting things into the right perspective. Take a second and grab a pen and paper. Write down a list of complaints you have about your age. Okay, and limit the complaints to 3. Let's not go overboard. Is your hair thinning? Do your joints hurt when you try to work off that beer belly? Perhaps you're just starting to notice a lack of sufficient energy. What things are you feeling too old to do? Okay, pause this and think about it. All right, all set? Did you identify your big 3? Or are you too old and mature to do what the author of a book asks? I see you. Seriously, pause this audiobook and do the work. Okay, now that you've written your complaints, add 17 years to your age. So if you're 35, imagine you are now 52. You're 48, imagine you're now 65. If you're 56, now imagine you're 73. How does that feel? Seriously, imagine how you will feel in 17 years. How much do you think someone 17 years older than you would love to be walking in your shoes? They might switch with you in a heartbeat. I'm not saying aging is bad. A lot of people have amazing lives in their later years. I can honestly say I'm really excited for salt and pepper hair to start coming in. I think it's going to be a good look for me. Hashtag Silver Fox. The reason I recommend this exercise is to show you that it's all about perspective. Your youthful boss or coworkers genuinely believes they are old simply because they have never been older. It's insecurity at its finest. Don't get upset with someone because they have insecurities. All you can do is take control of your own personal insecurities. Remember, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Choose to see today as a gift. Stop worrying about the, "Oh my God, Becky, I am so old" comments. Embrace your journey, every beautiful step of the way. People become trapped by their perspectives, mostly because they don't know any better. They are unfortunately missing out on the opportunity to be thrilled, excited, and grateful for their current age. Do we need to get back to the chapter about gratitude? Why 17 years, you ask? Why not? Stop asking questions. After all, you probably didn't even pause this audiobook to do the homework. Moving on. Reason number 18. You can't fire me. He wants to fire me? I started this gangster shit. And this the motherfucking thanks I get? Thanks, Ice Cube. I'm going to assume you don't talk like that, and I'm not going to judge you even if you do. I was born and raised in Metro Detroit and love listening to Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Tupac Shakur, and other legendary hip-hop artists. But this chapter isn't about hip-hop. It's about you. And guess what? You're fired. Here's a question. If you were fired tomorrow, what would you do? Let's do some role-playing. If your boss called you into their office tomorrow morning and told you they had to let you go, how do you think you would respond? Would you cry? Would you scream? Would you be calm? Would you think about all the bills you have to pay? Or would you think about all the other better jobs that you could get? Would you think about how other people would judge you? Or would you think about how this turn of events is going to make you stronger? The truth is, we tend to get comfortable in our situations, and we live in the illusion that change will not happen. But change does happen. The only thing constant is change. Quote by Heraclitus: "Whether it is a military battle, a sporting event, a speaking engagement, or a business presentation, the time to prepare isn't when the obstacle shows up. You must prepare beforehand. Develop your game plan, strategy, and emergency survival guide before you have to face the adversity. Start thinking about getting fired now. What would be your plan? Have you set up your finances to handle unemployment? How can you be proactive instead of reactive? When you are proactive, you can make proper decisions, so you aren't left feeling like your legs have been swept out from under you. Don't let struggles, hardship, and failure cripple your spirit. Don't let situational change catch you off guard. Get out in front of it before it crushes you. Be prepared, be proactive, be ready. Be resilient. When you become resilient, getting fired, or anything else for that matter, will cease to shock you. When you're resilient, you'll quickly bounce back versus standing outside wet in the cold without any answers. Now, if you participated in that little exercise and getting fired actually sounded like a pretty damn great situation, it's time for a change. Perhaps you're ready to step away, but you're unsure about the next step, or you're hoping someone will come along with another opportunity and give you some peace of mind to make that move. Psst. Permission isn't coming. This is your life, and you do not need anyone else's approval to do the things that will make you the happiest and most fulfilled. All right, here goes story time. When I had to go to the bathroom in elementary school, I would raise my hand, the teacher would call on me, and they'd grant me permission. Then I could go to the bathroom. I was required to get approval first to do what I needed to do. Thank God times have changed. I no longer ask permission to go to the bathroom, but I did find it necessary to take a look at my life as an adult and identify the areas where I was still seeking approval of others. Are there areas of your life that have you still waiting for permission to begin? Are there specific things you are hoping someone will grant you permission to do? Are you looking for other people to approve your dreams before you start taking action towards those dreams? You are an adult. You do not need to ask for permission to chase your dreams, to make changes in your life, to take steps towards traveling more, to begin a new healthy lifestyle, to write that song. Many of us were raised to ask permission and rely on other people so much that we forgot how powerful we really are. We grew up looking for a parent or teacher or boss to show us the way. But you have the tools and the abilities already within you to get moving towards what you want and to do the things you need to do. It's time to get up from that elementary school desk with your hand raised, hoping someone will call on you, and give yourself permission to chase a fulfilled life. Be an independent adult. Stand up and take care of business. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Excerpt from Our Greatest Fear by Marianne Williamson. Reason number 19. She has the owner's last name. My boss has zero talent, zero skills, zero ambition. Her only qualification is her last name. Hooray for nepotism! This one really sucks. The CEO's bumbling son or eccentric daughter can be an absolute energy suck to the workplace and to your life. Having to deal with someone that is only your boss because they are the close friend or family member of someone important can be a bit demoralizing. You feel like you are busting your ass. You have dedicated yourself to the company, and then someone's personal relationship to your boss overrules all the hard work and preparation. Story time. I grew up the son of a police officer. From a young age, I learned how to use my father's occupation to my advantage and would often do my very best to manipulate a situation. There were even incidents where I wasn't even fully conscious that I was using this leverage. Those skills were unconsciously learned growing up in my household. I talked myself out of at least 25 speeding tickets during my high school and college years. But obviously not all of them. Remember the laundry list of legal problems I mentioned? While there are many environments where nepotism creates some major headache, it is also important to realize that there could be massive benefits that the son or daughter of a person of power brings to the workplace. Let's look at the boss's kid scenario. It's easy to say, she hasn't worked hard, or he didn't earn it. It's easy to say, she would be nothing without mommy or daddy. It's easy to discredit their abilities because you're too wrapped up in your sour feelings. Now, let's look at this from another angle. If a child has been around since the creation of a company and has been coming to work with their parents since they were 10, by the time that child becomes 20, the kid would have 10 peripheral years of connection to the business. And what's so wrong with building a family business anyway? Now, imagine that little kid is you. Score! With all your ambitions, hard work, and excitement around learning, if you were involved in your parents' business, you might have 5, 7, maybe even 10 years worth of knowledge related to your current position. The boss's kid had the luxury of getting that training at an early age, so maybe he has 10 years of experience by age 25. By merely thinking this person started at the top without putting in any work, you may be oversimplifying the situation and undervaluing your boss. More than likely, you're just feeling a bit entitled. Who's the child now? While it is not the same as nepotism, I do want to discuss an equally challenging situation to stomach. Working for a boss who received the promotion you are up for. Ouch. This has resentment, bitterness, and comparison written all over it. The best case scenario is that it's a person from outside the company whom you have no pre-existing connection or issues with. Or you may be in a situation where you are now the subordinate to a boss who you once were a peer. Perhaps you were both interviewing for the same promotion and they received the position instead of you. It hurts, I know. Maybe you previously got along and it won't be such a bad transition. Or perhaps they're the type of person that sends you countless Facebook quizzes and asks you why you haven't replied to them. Either way, it can bruise your ego. The extreme case, you have been removed from a position and now a former subordinate has stepped into your old role. Twist the knife already, right? I'm not gonna lie, this can be a tough pill to swallow. Simply looking at them may trigger a reminder of what you perceive to be a failure. However, understand that being demoted is not something you should sit around and blame anyone else for. When you blame other people, you are giving your power away to them. The best qualities that a leader can have are developing the ability to take ownership of your actions and taking responsibility for your mistakes. If you were demoted, my instinct tells me there was something wrong. Only you know what it is. But if you can't find any fault in yourself, it might be a good time to start searching for potential reasons. Regardless of where you fall in dealing with the old, that promotion should have been mine scenario, there is only one thing to do. Your absolute best. There are going to be growing pains anytime there is a change. Be the person that supports the team. Be the one who sets the tone of how your department is going to operate. Show why you are a valuable member of that company. You're not there to show off, show anyone up, or show the company they made a mistake. Rather, you're there to be a team player and do the job you are being paid to do. When you showcase the resilience to come back to work and give 100%, even though you didn't get your way, that is the type of character the board of directors is looking for. There will be other opportunities. Being a bitter crybaby will never open any doors, but being resilient and hardworking most definitely will. Plus, you never know when your new boss will get fired or quit. So be ready. You're on deck, slugger. Here's a quick note about accepting responsibility and owning your mistakes. We all make mistakes. Some are small and trivial, others are massive and embarrassing. As I mentioned before, in my senior year of high school, I was voted class perfectionist. I thought because perfect was in the title that it was accomplishment. Well done, Phillip. It was not. The word perfect is a trap. Why? Because it doesn't frickin' exist. When you understand that there's no such thing as perfect, it makes it a lot easier to accept that everyone makes mistakes. It is just part of life. Don't run from your mistakes. Don't try to spin your mistakes. Don't make a mistake worse by not owning it or by trying to sweep it under the rug or passing it on to someone else. When you do that, you are just building a house on shaky ground and you're trying to protect your ego. Control your ego, or your ego will control you. It's so true. Own your mistakes. Admit when you're wrong. Think back to the last time someone around you admitted they made a mistake. Did you yell at them even louder? Did you pile on the guilt? Or did you respect them for their honesty and try to help them fix the problem? I bet you handled their admission with care, respect, and trust. The same thing will happen when you admit your own mistakes. Making mistakes is human. Admitting your mistakes is heroic. Taking responsibility is what leaders do. It's what champions do. Owning your mistakes is how you build strong character. It's how you live a life that commands respect. Hiding from your mistakes only makes you feel smaller in the long run. Have the courage to admit when you're wrong and do your best to make it right as quickly as possible. When you take ownership of your mistakes, others will take ownership of theirs by following your example. Finger-pointing and blaming will not produce change nearly as powerfully as owning your mistakes will. Be courageous, honorable, and humble. Be honest, truthful, and vulnerable. Own your mistakes, and you will never be a slave to them. Reason number 20. He can't get his shit together. There's just too many things wrong with this guy. He's rude, he's entitled, he's a crybaby. I hate him. There's no way I can let this shit slide. I understand that there are people in this world who are difficult to deal with. They are bullies, they are self-centered, they are absolute happiness destroyers. If that is the type of boss you have, I can only imagine how frustrating that is. I hope you now have the courage, strength, and faith in yourself to get out of that toxic space. But if the change cannot happen immediately, in order to save your own sanity, you must forgive your boss for who they are. Forgiving someone is not the same as condoning their behavior. We don't always forgive people for their sake. Many times we forgive others for our own emotional freedom. As we wrap up this book, let's welcome our next week with a spirit of forgiveness that extends beyond the workplace. Perhaps someone said or did something this past week that upset, hurt, or disappointed you. Maybe it was a friend, parent, spouse, or a child. Maybe it was a coworker or a complete stranger. You might already have someone in mind who you need to forgive. It has been said that holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. We must practice a spirit of forgiveness. We must forgive others so that we can be free. Forgiving is not being a doormat. Forgiving isn't devaluing your worth or your quality of life. Forgiving doesn't make you smaller than the other person. Forgiving others brings freedom to ourselves. When we forgive, we allow ourselves to unload the burden of negative, toxic thoughts. Forgiveness enables us to put down the emotional weight of judgment. One of the easiest ways that I find to give forgiveness is to say a kind word about someone. That person upset me, but I forgive them, and I hope their day gets better so they can be better for those around them. Remember, hurt people hurt people. If your boss was nasty, rude, or mean, there is likely something going on in their life. It may be considered something small or big to you, but it is big enough to affect how they behave in the world, and you can bet it affects how they feel about themselves. It can be easy to assume that since they are in a position of power, they have their life completely under control. However, your boss is a human who may be taking on a lot of responsibility and is feeling the pressure. Their external behavior is a reflection of how they feel on the inside. And while you may have to deal with someone being nasty for some part of your day, they have to live with themselves 24 hours a day. Be kind and offer forgiveness, whether someone deserves it or not. Forgiveness isn't giving them permission to do wrong. It is giving yourself permission to be free. Now, the next little bit of information might feel like it's coming completely out of left field, but as a man involved in the substance abuse recovery community, I thought it was important to add, and it loosely applies to this chapter. With the current opioid epidemic in America, as a nation, we are seeing drug addictions and alcoholism skyrocket, and it hits people of all ages, races, and demographics. People are rampantly self-medicating with drugs, alcohol, and prescription medication to better deal with anxiety, stress, ADHD, PTSD, chronic pain, undiagnosed mental disorders, etc. While most of us are not doctors, we should keep this in our awareness. If you are noticing that these type of addictions may be associated with your boss, consider the following. They could be having a problem at home in their relationship. They could be dealing with medical issues of a family member. They could be experiencing financial hardships. They could be overwhelmed with the responsibilities of being a boss. Ask your boss how they are doing rather than judging their behavior. A simple question with the right amount of care, empathetic concern, and genuine curiosity can do wonders. Have the courage to stand up, show some humility, and be supportive. If your boss, coworker, or workplace environment does become too toxic, and it appears there is no escaping the behavior issues running rampant in your office, you owe it to yourself to help make a change. Among the most common regrets that people have before their death is remaining in an unfulfilling career. Life is too short to hate your job, your workplace environment, or the people you're working with. Don't get caught living with a bunch of I wish I would'ves. Conclusion. Great. Another millennial just told me how to live my life. I literally can't even. If you've made it to the end of the book, I hope you've enjoyed yourself and took away useful information and a new perspective for your life. The American workforce is facing many challenges, and ageism is most certainly one of them. Multiple generations with varied backgrounds amongst workers will inevitably bring clashes over ideals and outlooks, and there is a lot of evidence to support that. While we address some of these issues, I hope that this book has allowed you to see that there are always opportunities and possibilities in any given situation. Remember, there were several exercises laid out throughout this book to help you on your journey of life. If you're like most people, you listen to the book without completing or even starting those exercises. Feel free, now that you've finished, go back and take advantage of those opportunities. Integrity Scan, Chapter 3. Updating Your Thinking, Chapter 8. Projecting Assessment, Chapter 14. Gratitude List, Chapter 16. Age Complaining, Chapter 17. Whether someone is a baby boomer, Gen Xer, millennial, or Gen Zer, we all have the ability to go beyond simply coexisting by thriving and learning to grow together. On the path to self-awareness and self-mastery, we have learned to identify ego, entitlement, fear of failure, arrogance of success, and fear of change. With self-mastery, we must begin with the self. Put on your oxygen mask first before helping someone else with theirs. When you clean your side of the street, you can powerfully serve other people and create long-lasting happiness and fulfillment for your life and those around you. Regret will come tomorrow if you don't work to destroy it today. You have a choice. Either live your life with purpose, boldness, courage, acceptance, and resilience, or you may very well one day be lying in a hospital bed, wishing you had done things differently, consumed by regret. Give yourself a life that you can look back on in your final days and know you went all out. You lived fully. You overcame fear, you mastered the small things, you accepted the challenges, and made the most of your life. We do not destroy regret in our final moments. We destroy regret today by chasing our dreams, by living a full life, by telling those we love that we love them, and by being bold and courageous. It has been said that you only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. I love that. I will leave you with this. There are plenty of difficult obstacles in your path. Don't allow yourself to become one of them. Ralph Marston. Thank you very much for listening to All the Reasons I Hate My 28-Year-Old Boss. The end. This audiobook was recorded and engineered at the Ranch Studios in Los Angeles, California by Rick Seibel. All the Reasons I Hate My 28-Year-Old Boss is written by Phillip Andrew Barbb and narrated by the author. Published by Truesome Visions Publishing, LLC.